Hey, welcome in. This is Kyle is Wonderful here with another review, this time for WWE NXT 2.0, the episode from June 14th, 2022. And this ended up being a taped episode. I did hear rumors about this. I didn't know anything about it beforehand, but I did hear about 5 days ago. It looked like they had taped, possibly, I heard all the way up to the Great American Bash is already taped. Now, thankfully, I haven't really heard too much about spoilers. I did know one of the matches that was going to be at Great American Bash, but we do find about that match tonight. So only spoiled by about 5 days, and the story was still all right, and it didn't ruin too much. But this was a taped episode tonight, and for the most part, I didn't really remember other than a few things that happened, which I'll let you know that reminded me, oh yeah, this is a taped episode. But it didn't suffer too much from it. If you know my channel, one of my favorite, not to compare Lucha Underground with NXT 2.0, but my point is just by the fact that your show isn't live doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad show. So we'll get into it. I do at the end. If you watched last night's Raw review, you know that I talked about I'm all of this week. I'm going to do a mid year report. We're not quite at the mid year, but I think this is a good time to take stock as far as the WWE roster was changing with the whole Cody getting injured and Edge getting kicked out of Judgment Day, Finn Balor turning heel, Edge turning face. So I was taking stock of everybody, where they're at, how their year's been, what we could see from them going forward. I'll do the same here, although that ended up taking about 20 minutes. So it's probably going to take me another 20-25 minutes to do that. I'll save that for the end of the episode, so you don't have to wait too long to get into the review. But before I get into the review, there was NXT went back on the Largo loop. That means NXT finally, for the first time since the pandemic happened, went out on live tour, live house shows in front of fans that weren't just unpaid fans at the Performance Center or the Capitol Wrestling Center. So that's always what I was saying last week is we'll have to see in the next month or so if there's some major improvements by everybody. Now, that was before I knew they were going to tape a bunch of shows at once. So somewhere around, like I said, I don't know if Great American Bash is all taped or some of it is taped or none of it might be taped. That might be a live show. And maybe I just heard that one of the matches that there is going to be this one. So I'm not even quite sure if next week's taped. I didn't look into it because I just don't want to find spoilers. So if I even investigate that, I might see what happens, which I don't want. Um, but yeah, they finally went back on live tour, and that started Friday, and they also had a Saturday show. So on Friday, I believe they were in Tampa, and these are just in small venues. Maybe 200 people were there total, maybe more, maybe less. And if you go on Twitter, you can type in NXT Tampa or NXT Largo, which was the next night's show, and you can find pictures and maybe I'm not quite sure if there's any videos, but you can find pictures and stuff documenting what happened. So I'll just quickly go through what happened. This is a great way for people to get some extra training, especially like I said, in front of like a live crowd that isn't just shills basically. So these are real people that can give you real feedback. If you mess up, they might be a little more harsh to you and stuff, or maybe you're getting some more genuine reactions than you usually do in the CWC. So it started out pretty hot. I would have loved to see this match. It went about 11 minutes. Carmelo Hayes defended against Nathan Frazier, and Carmelo Hayes retained his NXT North American title. Again, these are from the live show. So this is not from tonight. These are from the live shows over the weekend. Carmelo Hayes defeated Nathan Frazier, which must have been great. Then we had Ivy Now defeating Lash Legend, and at a point during that match, Alba Fire, the former Kaylee Ray, came out and distracted Lash Legend. Now, if you remember last week's episode of NXT Review, I talked about I was hoping Lash Legend would go on the Largo loop against Alba Fire, so that Lash Legend, who I believe is a superstar, and we do get a great video package about Lash Legend tonight. Of course, she's still very green, and she's kind of dangerous in the ring currently because of the fact that she's green, but she's also really big and strong. So I was hoping that Lash Legend would go on the Largo loop with Alba Fire. She fought Ivy Nile here in a 5-minute match, and it set up more storylines. So it looks like you were going to get a little bit of storylines and promos. There was some debuts and stuff at these live shows. So if you're in Florida in any of these shows, I think the next one's in Jacksonville. I would definitely recommend going. It's probably not too expensive of a ticket either. So Ivy now defeated Lash Legend in the second match in 5 minutes. Then we had a six-man tag. Idris Nofi, Javier Bernal, and Malik Blade teamed up to go against Legado del Fantasma, who had the rest of the Tony D'Angelo family on the outside with them. So it was Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wild, and Santos Escobar losing to the face team of Inoue, Bernal, and Blade in 9 minutes, 9.5 minutes. Then we got we found out officially, if we already didn't know, Fabian Eichner is playing the role of Giovanni Vinci, who we've seen in some promo packages saying he was going to debut this week, the one that happened tonight on NXT. So we got to see officially that Giovanni Vinci is played the part is played by Fabian Eichner, who could no longer have his real name, just like all the other people that had their real names, like Kaylee Ray, who had to all change their names. So a gimmick change as well. He got taken away from Imperium, and with this new, it looked like maybe an aristocrat, kind of like $1 million man or Alberto Del Rio, but in from an Italian perspective. So he's wearing like Gucci and stuff like that, and fancy suits, and drives Ferraris. Here we saw what he was going to wear, so nothing much to report on his outfit. It's all the plain black trunks on Giovanni Vinci, but the plain black trunks are made to look like they're Gucci style. So a little bit of flair without being like, it seems like it's just going to be him. So he did wrestle in it tonight on NXT, and it seemed like it's just Fabian Eichner for the most part. But his entrance was amazing, and I'll get to that. So again, I'm talking about the live show still. The one This is the one from Friday. Giovanni Vinci defeated Dante Chin in about 5 minutes. I'm sure that was a pretty good match to see live. Next, there was an NXT title defense. Creed Brothers defeat Pretty Deadly in 9.5 minutes. Probably a good match as well after what we've seen them do on the NXT in Your House live event. Solo Sikoa defeated Zion Quinn in 6.5 minutes next. And then there was an NXT women's tag team title match. It was Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane defeated Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez in 7.5 minutes. Um, so all in all, this seems like a pretty good live show to go to. A lot of things from the current stories and current rivalries and stuff like that. The main event for this Friday night show in Tampa was Braun Breaker defeating Grayson Waller in about 10 minutes. And I think it was at this show, but it was maybe the other show. We had one of the names I've seen on the Performance Center roster is a woman by the name of Calix Calyx Hampton. Calix Hamptons. Apologies, I've never heard it said out loud, but she officially has her new name because that was her real name. And she was I think she was in tumbling or gymnastics from the University of Oregon. Has a good look to her. She was in the same class of recruits that had Roxanne Perez, Fallon Henley, Sloan Jacobs, a few others that I can't remember right now, but she's the only one from that class we haven't seen on TV yet. So she debuted in a interview segment at one of these two shows, and she's going by the name Sol Rucka. I don't know exactly if that's the pronunciation. Again, I haven't heard it said out loud yet, but it's SOL space RUCA. So Sol Rucka, something along those lines is the new name of Calix Hampton, who looks to be the newest person that's going to debut on TV any moment. Let's talk a little bit about the other live show. I'll just quickly go through it. This one doesn't even have how long the matches were, but again, looked like a good show. This one was in Largo, which is kind of like their home base, a home away from home. Um, I would say Largo is their second like home, other than of course Orlando. And that one started with a Mandy Rose match against Indy Hartwell for the women's title. So these might be the matches that we get at Great American Bash. It's good for them to work it out in front of a live audience. That's what the main roster does all the time. And that way, their big pay-per-view or rivalry match can be that much better because in the last 3 weeks, I've fought that guy 6 times in a house show. So I like seeing this. In the next match, so the second match of the night at the live show for Largo was two debuting wrestlers. So we've got a couple more guys that finally got their real name. And I follow all this news very closely because I try to have, if you definitely go on my channel and check out some of my WWE 2K Universe Mode streams. I probably have the deepest NXT slash Performance Center roster in the world. I study even the NXT Level Up shows so that I can add the latest outfits or the latest move sets that they add to their arsenal. So definitely go check that out. I haven't added these two guys yet. I'm not great at the creating part, so that's the part that is takes the longest. But we've got Hank Walker. He came out in like denim shirt, and kind of like the same outfit as Josh Briggs. And he didn't keep the shirt on like Briggs does. So he was wrestling in his jeans, Hank Walker, and he was fighting against Miles Bourne. Quickly before this match starts, Von Wagner comes out and beats both of them up. Hank Walker gets up and challenges Von Wagner after the beatdown. So we get a singles match where Von Wagner, of course, beats the debuting Hank Walker, who we did see in the background, or not in the background, but he was in a segment tonight. So Hank Walker somewhat made his debut tonight. I don't know if that debut was going to be the character he plays going forward, or if it's just I recognized him from these pictures at the live shows. So third match of the live show in Tampa or in Largo was Katana Chance and Caden Carter defeating the Pan American Connection, which is Valentina Ferrah and Ulysses Leon. Must have been a pretty good match. Two of the established tag teams that have been established tag teams for a while. Um, both of them haven't gotten the huge push yet. Both of these teams still waiting to get pushed. So they're in the background whenever they do need some more tag teams. So basically, it's been, for the most part, now I know we got Caden Carter and Katana Chance fighting for the titles at In Your House. But before that, it was mostly just putting together people instead of using these established teams. So it seems like they're really just trying to get these two teams leveled up, for lack of better terms, which you can find them on Level Up more often than NXT 2.0. But it's good to see them both fight each other at the live show. The live show is all about gaining experience. So match after that, we see Wendy Chu against Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton's one of the most improved in a quick short amount of time on the roster. I think this was her 13th match in her career. So again, good that they're on live shows so that these people can get some extra matches in. And even like we know they taped tonight's episode, but those are still matches that just because it happened it was just two matches in succession or maybe. So still, these live shows are adding extra experience that I think we can start to notice around Great American Bash. Some of these wrestlers getting more experience and getting better in the ring. Next match, I'm not quite sure why. Maybe Bodie Hayward was injured, but Bodie Hayward was there on the outside. But Andre Chase had a special tag team partner, and I think maybe Thea Hale was there as well. She's going to be available full time for at least the next 2 months before she starts real life college. And her whole gimmick of being in college and also WWE being kind enough to let her train while she's in college is a real life thing. So I don't know how it's going to be. Maybe on the weekends she'll come in, or every other week she can come to train, or maybe every Tuesday. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is going to be, but the special tag partner for Andre Chase here was Ika Manjiro, who I'm sure got a good reaction from the crowd. Again, I love his music, so that music probably hit and everybody got excited and clapped. They took on another oddball tag team, or at least one I didn't expect. It was Duke Hudson and Quincy Elliott. Now, if you haven't seen Quincy Elliott on Level Up, he's got a very flamboyant slash um, maybe he's like bi and stuff like that. It hasn't really been said yet, but he's also a bigger guy and he dances around and he's getting more and more as he goes here, more flamboyant. And this, he almost had like a Velveteen Dream type outfit on. So he continues to get more and more flamboyant as the weeks go, and he's only been on Level Up as of now. He had a mini feud before, right when he debuted with Joe Gacy, and that was over like how I think it was around the time Joe Gacy was upset that the cruiserweight title had weight limits, and then Quincy Elliott was the example of like someone that was larger that needed acceptance. But then Joe Gacy, of course, is evil and stuff, so also beat up Quincy Elliott at a point. Then we get Cameron Grimes versus Tony D'Angelo. This one went to a no contest because And don't forget again, I'm talking about the live shows still. I'm almost done with him, and we'll get into tonight's show. But Cameron Grimes, oh yeah, it's a no contest. Cameron Grimes versus Tony D'Angelo. All these were on the, and you might have heard the reports. Tony D'Angelo went down on his shoulder. It looked like pretty hard, and the referee stopped the match. And they had the doctors and stuff looking at Tony D'Angelo. So the reports are coming out of this that it does not look too serious, but they didn't want to take their chances or anything on this. So that match was stopped and they moved on to the next one. Um, and hopefully it's not too bad. And again, they should have a little bit of time off for whatever reason. They taped tonight's NXT. I have no idea why, and they might have taped even the next week's. I'm not quite sure, but they do not go on the live tour again this weekend. They wait till the next weekend after that. So there is a little bit of time here where people can heal up some injuries. Tony D'Angelo being one of them, since tonight's episode of NXT was already taped before this happened. Next was an NXT North American title match: Carmelo Hayes versus Solo Sikoa. Probably a match we'll get after the Great American Bash. So good for them to start. I think they've been in the ring before, but you know what I mean. Get more experience in the ring together. The main event of this show was Braun Breaker teaming up with Brooks and Jensen, and they defeated the Dyad and Joe Gacy. The Dyad being the two Red Druids, and they are the former grizzled young veterans, Drake Gibson and or Drake, Zach Gibson and James Drake. So they also debuted on TV tonight. That was one of the two matches, I think. Maybe they had three matches announced for tonight. But before I get into tonight, those look like a really fun shows. Like I said, if you're in the Florida area, look to see where they're back on tour a week from Friday. So they'll be back on tour. I think that show is in Jacksonville, and I'm not quite sure what's the Saturday show after that. So they have at least I think 6 more shows in the next month that they're going on, or like about 5 weeks in the next 5-6 weeks. They'll have 5 or 6 shows, but they look pretty fun, and they'll be back on the road a week from Friday. So, like I said, this is a taped episode tonight of NXT. So some of the stuff is awkward because one thing I want to say before we get into the NXT episode tonight, there it was some news right after on Sunday. I think it was almost Sunday night, we get the news broken that Troy Two Dimes Donovan has been released by WWE, and they said it was he broke policy, but there was also reports that maybe in a year or so, so they used the actual word term in a year, maybe he can come back. So there must be, excuse me, allergies have been really bad here. There must be some kind of written policy. Again, they did not tell us what it was, but there must be some kind of written policy that has in the rule, if it's broken, they have to be gone for at least a year. So something along those lines must have happened, and Troy Two Dimes Donovan has been released after only being in the WWE, I think, since March. He came in at the same time as his partner, um, Channing Lorenzo. So that was upsetting to see. But we do see him on the show tonight. So Troy Two Dimes Donovan is on the show tonight. If you don't know, he's part of the family. He's one of the two goons that with Tony D'Angelo. And now they've got Legado del Fantasma as part of their family since the three of them won their. So Troy Two Dimes Donovan was just in the In Your House pay-per-view 2 weeks ago, but now released for something he did. So it doesn't seem like he broke the law. It's not like serious like that, but some kind of policy. I'm sure we'll find out eventually. But it does sound like it was somewhat good turns, and maybe he'll be back in a year. So I would expect to see him on like AEW. We've seen Troy Donovan on AEW Dynamite before. I forget what his other ring name is. I'll look that up for next episode of NXT review. But again, he is on tonight's show since they already taped these shows before they fired him. So, like I said, It looks like it or for tonight, it was they had already announced all of Toxic Attraction, all 3 members versus Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and Indy Hartwell. Plus, we get the Creeds, if you remember, set up a tag title match against Idris Enofe and Malik Blade, who I love Idris Enofe, one of the biggest stars. And we do get a pretty good segment later on where someone else says on screen that Idris Enofe looks like a huge, like he has potential for to be a huge star, which I believe wholeheartedly. So that'll be tonight. And if you remember, Roderick Strong was upset with the Creeds for just allowing this team a title match without quote unquote earning it. So we start NXT and the Creeds and Malik and Idris are already in the ring, which is a little weird for a big title match and two teams that people like. We don't get any entrances or anything. They get the quick announcement because since it's a title match. And I'm thinking it must be a packed episode if this is A, it's taped, and B, we don't even have time for the tag titles, both teams being faces, and we don't have time for an entrance. So um, before we get started, this is just to give you a little bit of background. We almost got this as the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Classic back in February or January, and um, MSK beat Malik Blade and Idris Enofe in the semifinals after Enofe and Blade upset Legado del Fantasma in the first round. But the eventual winners of the Dusty Road Classic was the Creeds. They ended up getting their title shot and winning eventually over Pretty Deadly. So, pretty good stuff here. Brutus is overpowering Malik at a point. We get a really unique double team move by Blade and Enofe, which looked pretty good. The match slows down a little bit, and um, then we get a nasty knee lift, kind of like the same one that Ezekiel's been doing from Idris, and almost looked like he knocked out Julius Creed. This match isn't super long, but it's not super short either. And eventually we get a Creed's double team. It looked like it was a little bit botched on the Brutus Creed was trying to slam Malik, and it looks like the timing was off, and they had to just since that was the ending of the match, had to retry it. So a little clunky there. I'm not sure who was the blame, but um, they ended up redoing it, the move anyway, and then we got the finisher, which was Julius Creed's sliding clothesline to a seated opponent. And that was the end of the match. Everyone shakes hands, everybody hugs it out afterward, and then we go to the back right after that. It's Cora Jade, Roxanne, and Indy Hartwell. Indy kind of looks sad and kind of like she's away from the other two who are over there, like giggling, and they've got Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez acting like they're 14-year-old schoolgirls, but it's whatever. And that's what you get when you get like 60-year-old men writing content for 20-year-old women instead of just letting them be themselves. But like I said, it's neither here nor there. We expect that kind of stuff coming into this. And Indy's over there, like I said, looking sad and like she's kind of away from the other two who are just giggling to each other about other stuff and just whatever, having fun. Indy says she's a veteran, but of course Jade says, well, "Yeah, but you're only 25." Indy brings up she was tag team champion before Cora was legally able to drink and before Roxanne was able to drive. So I'm not quite sure that was true because where I'm from, you can drive at 16, and that was 4 years ago. And Indy Hartwell was not champion 4 years ago. Anyway, they seem to be on the same page after talking it through. Like basically, they tell Indy, "No, you're not the third wheel here." And we go back to the ring. Tiffany Stratton's on her way out, so I'm excited for that. Like I said, she's one of the most improved out of someone that hadn't had any experience before. She's on the Braun Breaker trajectory without having a family member in the business. So Tiffany Stratton's out next. This was probably her 13th match, and then the live show would have been her 14th. So she's got about 14 matches total in her now, and looks to be amazing. She started out a little clunky, but it was only a matter of like 1 month later she was looking great in the ring. And they tell us it's gonna be a rematch of the breakout tournament next, and we go to an ad break, and I'm thinking, oh no, like I don't want her to fight Roxanne again, but then I had forgotten that Toxic Attraction is fighting Roxanne, Indy, and Cora later. So it was the rematch of the semifinal match where Tiffany Stratton got added once Nikita Lyons got injured. So Tiffany Stratton will be fighting against Fallon Henley. We come back from ad break, and instead of going to the ring, it's a like vignette, like it's a little mini movie. Like, so it's Apollo Creed in a diner. If you guys didn't hear last week, Apollo Creed looks like he's back in NXT full time. He dropped the exaggerated Nigerian accent, and he's back to his normal accent, back to his normal outfits and stuff, and there was no sign of Apollo or Commander Aziz with him. So Apollo Cruz kind of did leave NXT the original time a little early. I think he got called up within a year, so he never got the NXT title, and he's here to win the title because when he was here for that year, Finn Balor was dominating as champion at the time. So Apollo Cruz is in the diner thinking about his past. So we get like a bunch of flashback scenes of his entire WWE and NXT career leading up till now, leading up to the return of last week. Um, then we hear someone yelling at a waitress in the background. So remember, this is like shot as like a little mini movie in some kind of diner. With like almost black and white kind of effects, not quite black and white, but it wasn't very like they took the color way down. So they were trying to do some cinematography and stuff. Definitely go look this up. It should be on YouTube, and it's Apollo Crews in a diner. So look that one up for sure. But we hear a guy yelling at a waitress, and if I hadn't looked up all the stuff about the live events over the weekend, I would have never known that this was Hank Walker, the guy that got beat up by Von Wagner at the second house show. So Hank Walker is here, and he's yelling at the waitress like hardcore about messing up his order, or there should have been no lettuce on this or something. He's just yelling. Apollo comes over and confronts him, and the guy Hank Walker like gets mad at him and wants to fight, but Apollo just knocks him out cold. But then, of course, then we get like we go back to Apollo singing, and we hear the guy yelling again. So it must have been a dream or like his daydream. But then Apollo gets right back up, and the same thing happens, and he knocks him out. And the little mini movie ends. So that was really weird. I swear to God, I saw it twice. Like he got up, knocked out the guy for yelling at the waitress and then being mad at Apollo for it. And then it happened the exact same thing, like deja vu. So I don't know exactly what that means. It could have been a mistake, or it could mean that Apollo Crews had some kind of time travel ability where he can go back in time 10 seconds. And maybe this was their way of showing that, but he just wanted to punch the guy again. He didn't want to change anything that happened. He just wanted to relive that moment again. Either that or it was a daydream that he daydreamed about and he liked what he saw, so he did it in real life. I'm not quite sure, but it was weird and cool. That's the only time we see Apollo Crews tonight, but again, it seemed like they're giving him some character, which he has definitely lacked some major character other than them saying he's a Nigerian royalty and giving him a bodyguard. But even after that point, they didn't really flesh out the character. So I would love to see where this goes. Again, it could have just been a daydream that then he wanted to do it in real life, or it was some kind of time travel ability, as weird as that sounds. Uh, and I swear I'm not making that up. And we don't know if this is gonna be they're gonna ever say this was Hank Walker, but maybe we'll see Hank Walker versus Apollo Crews in the next coming weeks. So the rematch, like I said, is actually against Fallon Henley from the semifinals. So now Fallon Henley comes out. She's got Briggs and Jensen with her. Come to think of it, I forgot to look and see if the cast was back on Jensen's arm. But we get a match here, not very long, but pretty good. At a point, Fallon gets a really nasty slap slash punch type thing that makes a really loud noise to Tiffany's face, and the crowd like really loves that. Tiffany just looks amazing out there, both wrestling abilities and all of her outfits and just her body type and all of that. And she's got an amazing character. As much as I like Roxanne Perez, I think I like Tiffany Stratton even more. she's gonna be a mega star. I hope she's up on the main roster sooner, like, and has a great run. Like, I wouldn't put her up there right now. Again, she's had about 14 matches total. So keep letting her marinate in NXT and get even better. But she dominates until Wendy chews out with her Slurpee cup, this time full of confetti, which basically confirms that Wendy Chu is now literally morphed into Doink the Clown. These are all the same things that the face version of Doink the Clown was doing. Now, Doink the Clown started out as a heel, and it was actually pretty good and creepy, and he had creepy version of like um circus music. But then he turned face and just had the regular type circus music and just did all these kind of pranks, which I should have got the connection before now, but once she's doing the confetti stuff on in the face, because that was one of Doink the Clown's gimmick. He would have a pail, and they would either have water or confetti, or maybe even nothing in them. And so he would trick people, and then they would think it was just confetti. So then they'd turn their guard down or something, or and then it would be water the next time. So, which I hope Wendy Chu can find some kind of ele- I hope she's just not a one note character going forward with it's only this with the hijinks and the pranks. Like I said, I enjoyed some of the hijinks, like when she went to the tanning salon and that whole stuff, making Mandy Rose get a sunburn. That was I like that kind of stuff, but the silly string and the squirt guns and the sack of balls and now the confetti and not my cup of tea. Maybe someone out there is really loving it and it's not for me, but not digging the Wendy Chu character at the current moment. We go to the back now, and Cameron Grimes is he walks by a couple guys that I can't recognize, but I look kind of familiar. So I think these are some of the other Performance Center recruits. And there was also a woman there. I couldn't quite tell who it was. It might have been Brooklyn Barlow, or it might have been that new Sal Ruka, but it might have also been someone else. But all three look familiar. But he just walked right by them, he being Cameron Grimes. And that's because Braun Breaker walks up to Cameron Grimes. And he tells Cameron he knows what it's like to lose a title. Keep your head up. Cameron brushes him off and walks away, kind of like Cameron didn't like that kind of deal. But then Duke Hudson walks up to Braun Breaker and tells him not to put any ideas in Cameron's head. Then Duke Hudson reminds Braun Breaker that Duke beat Braun Breaker a few weeks ago. Um, so Braun says, "Fine, you want to rematch tonight?" And Duke agrees. Or Braun says, "You want a rematch?" And I'll even put the title on the line. So of course Duke Hudson agrees. So impromptu NXT title match later on. Stay tuned for that. But spoiler alert, it's not good. It's not a good match. Wes Lee's now up, and if you remember, they did set up another match last week. It was Wes Lee in a rematch against Zion Quinn. Last time they fought against each other, Zion Quinn dominated the whole match, but then Wes Lee hit a big move at the end to win, and that's why Zion Quinn wanted another rematch. So we go to ad break. We come back. This is the sit down promo I talked about at the beginning, where it's Lash Legend just sitting down and they got a lot of pictures from her past. This is exactly, even before she started the Lashing Out with Lash Legend talk show, they should have gave us this. And I'm always a proponent. Let us know who these people are. Like so I had known some of this, but even I, who, like I said, I do way more research than 99% of the wrestling fans in the world, just because I want this really highly in depth universe mode. So I'm researching these NXT people hardcore, and I know that Lash Legend is a legend when it comes to rebounding the basketball in the women's basketball game. I knew that she had 27 rebounds in a single game, which is insane in the NCAA. She also went to the NCAA Final Four and and I knew she got drafted by the WNBA, but what I did not know is why she left the WNBA. So in this, she's telling her whole story. I didn't know she was also a track and field star, but I probably should have known. So she talks about how she was a track and field star and a basketball star, and they've got all these pictures of her to accompany everything she's saying. She talks about the 27 rebounds in a single game, getting drafted to the WNBA, but then how shortly after that, COVID shut down the WNBA, and she didn't want to wait around, so that's why she joined NXT. So I don't know if all of that's true. Some of it's true. None of it's true. Because maybe she just more than likely, maybe she was like the 12th, 13th, or 14th player on a roster. So you start five, then you've got a backup five, and then you got a few more backups. Maybe she was in that 13 to 14th range of importance on her team and got released because um, since they weren't bringing in money from the pandemic, they just couldn't afford to pay, and they had to have a smaller roster. I didn't look into it, but I'm assuming maybe it's something like that. But the way Lash Legend puts it here, it could be kayfabe, it could be true. Says that she didn't want to wait around for the WNBA to decide anything, and she decided to join NXT. So great package there. I expect big things out of Lash Legend, but she has not progressed as quickly as Tiffany Stratton. So not everybody does progress super fast like that. It looks like Lash Legend is going to need at least a couple years in NXT. And from what we've heard, they're going to be having NXT people evaluated on a 6-month basis to see if you're improving or not. So hopefully she can continue to at least show improvement 6 months after 6 months. I should have said months, not weeks. I apologize. Every 6 months, they're going to be doing that evaluation. And if you're not improving, you're going to get that's when the round of firing is going to they might decide these 8 to 10 people have not shown a major sign of improvement in the last 6 months, and they release them. So hopefully that Lash Legend can continue to show improvement. She's going to be needing to be in NXT for a couple years, and she needs to improve so that she doesn't hurt any more people. The combination of being super strong, big, and green is always can potentially be dangerous, especially against other green wrestlers who are only half her size. Anyway, Zion Quinn now comes out. He looks great. He's got a great look to him. He's in great shape. I hope he continues to improve as well. He's not like a superstar in the ring. It's not like you think he's going to give you anything above 3-star match, even with a good wrestler at this current moment. But definitely, I think there's hopefully just the same thing like Lash Legend shows sign of improvement. He's not as big as you might think, but like he's way bigger than like a small Wesley in this match. So he's about medium size, has a good look to him, can talk all right. Looks cool but intimidating at the same time. So definitely could be like a uh, cool baby face that has heel tendencies, or just a cool heel in the future. Right now, he's a heel and not really playing up the cool stuff, just trying to be more intimidating than anything. And again, he's out for revenge against losing. He dominated the match against Wesley. If you remember, if you don't know Wesley, he's the former Desmond Xavier who lost his tag team partner of the MSK when they released him for controversial things that were happening. So Wesley was actually tag team champions at the time with him, lost the tag team titles from no fault of his own and his partner. So now he's invoking in a singles career, which if you remember Desmond Xavier from TNA all the way back, and I think it was 2017, won the TNA X Cup, which included people such as current New Japan Pro Wrestling's junior heavyweight champion Taiji Ishimori, who Desmond Xavier / Wesley beat in the finals. And that was at least like 5 years ago. So Wesley is a great wrestler, and he has proven that he's great on his own as well as a tag team. So I still could potentially see good things out of him. He is very small, so um, we just need WWE to continue to believe in having small guys on the roster, especially if you get enough of them. You don't need to have it. You don't have to have a cruiserweight division. You don't have to have all that. You don't have to have a title, but they can wrestle against each other, just like on WCW Nitro, where they weren't a big part of the major storylines, but every time on Nitro, you get a pretty good match. So hopefully, people like Nathan Frazier and Wesley can get up to the main roster, and there's a place for them to all fight each other. And of course, maybe fight some of the bigger guys as well. But that would be great. So we've got Zion Quinn out, and Wesley just starts really, really fast on Zion. But of course, Zion Quinn gains control by being much bigger pretty quickly. Really great fast-paced match that ends pretty quickly, of course. They don't give this match any time, but it is fast-paced and intense. And if you look at it like a real fight, like if these two guys were fighting this fast and with all the high flying and the high risk moves as well, whether it hits or not, it does lead to that match is probably going to end quicker than a technical match with all kinds of grappling and grabbing onto each other. So um, these kind of quick matches aren't necessarily as bad. It wasn't necessarily a squash either way, but Wes Lee ends up getting a little bit of advantage after getting beat down a little bit and hits a beautiful looking spiral tap off the top rope to pick up the win. So yet again, beating Zion Quinn. I don't know what they're doing with Zion Quinn, but I mean, people have to lose sometimes. I'm not going to be a guy that's going to be out here and say every single loss is going to be ruin their career. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose, unless you just make every match double disqualification and stuff like that. So um, that segment quickly ends, and we see Joe Gacy in the back with the dyad. That's the new name for his two druids, the grizzled young veterans. And he says that, oh yeah, this was another thing they said last week. Last week, Joe Gacy said the dyad and called them the dyad by name and gave them the name and some of their origin story, just that they were they were lost and looking for a way or whatever. So their debut match, or at least as the dyad, because we've seen grizzled young veterans, of course, before, but their debut match is next, and they have never told us who it's against. Then we get a package in the back before that match, just like the Lash Legend one, but this time for Nathan Frazier. So I'm loving this. They need to do this kind of stuff more often and should do it more closer to everybody's debut. But here we are, Nathan Frazier. He's talking about his life growing up in Jersey, not New Jersey, but the old Jersey, the original Jersey. It's a Channel Island in between France and England, and it's part of the United Kingdom. And he tells a little bit about life growing up there, and that he was really good at soccer, and he should have gone and could have gone pro at soccer, but his heart was with WWE. And I believe him when he says, like, everybody kind of has to say these kind of things, but I actually believe him when he says that, because this is Nathan Frazier is Ben Carter. He was trained by Seth Rollins, and people know him on the independent scene as Ben Carter. He's been putting down some great matches. Ben Carter had the decision to join either AEW or NXT, and he chose to join NXT, even though that meant going to NXT UK first. So he did that, got called up to regular NXT now. He's got the new name of Nathan Frazier. And I believe him when he said that he gave up soccer because his heart was in WWE and because he chose WWE over AEW. So good stuff in this promo. Hopefully he can get on the main roster eventually. He's already thrown down some amazing matches. Make sure you go check out from, I think it was 3 weeks ago, if you did not see the main event between Nathan Frazier and Cameron Grimes. So in the ring already, when we go back to the ring, is Javier Bernal and Dante Chin. This is, I think, their third tag team or third match as a tag team. A couple well, Javier Bernal is a lot newer than Dante Chin. Dante Chin has been on the NXT roster for, I think, at least 2 years. Him and Boa both have been on the roster forever. But Dante Chin has a great look and a great entrance, which we don't get to see tonight. But you can't really complain that these two guys aren't getting an entrance when we didn't even get the tag team champions an entrance in the tag team title match, nor did the challengers. So in the ring already, Javier Bernal and Dante Chin. Bernal is a Colombian who has lived and from Miami, Florida. So, and he's really charismatic. He comes out to like rock music and leather jackets with tassels. So he's really cool. Kind of on the small side as well. Dante Chin's much bigger than Javier Bernal, and Dante Chin's not even that huge of a man either. So Dyad's now out. They've got the maroon red. So I'm gonna have to update my universe mode when I get off here and change it from like regular red robes to like a maroon red. So that's what I was talking about when I do a lot of research on the NXT so that I can have the best looking universe mode. But they're out with Joe Gacy. They're called the Dyad. That's the Grizzled Young Veterans. They keep their hoods on the entire match, and I'm assuming they have masks on, but they gave them this look so that like the druid robes, so they're wearing just kind of like silk robes and silk maybe with like silk pants underneath it. Um, and the mask is so that like it comes up like if it's, my hands were the edge of the not the mask but the edge of the robe, so that you don't even see like the mask and it's just kind of like a dark void. But I'm wondering this whole match, like, you must have zero peripheral vision. Like, how can you barely see out of that little like window it's giving you? Unlike a regular like Rey Mysterio mask, where the mask comes right onto your skin, so that it's like you have all your peripheral vision and stuff still. So even the crowd, the entire crowd realizes, and again, they weren't chanting grizzled young veterans, which I love that about this crowd. So twice they didn't try to ruin segments, like when we got the debut of Bray Wyatt and everybody's chanting Husky Harris. So none of that tonight, and which is great because we don't need that kind of BS. Where was I? So so I think they are wearing masks, but you don't even see the face or the mask ever, and the crowd even noticed that the crowd is chanting, "How can you see?" And there was a little bit of a botch at a point, so maybe it was hard to see, but not too big of a botch. The match is short. Of course, they're fighting a couple. Unfortunately, they're jobbers at this current moment. Javier Bernal and Dante Chin, and squash match with a double team DDT. I think that's the might have been the Grizzled Young Veterans original finisher. I'd have to go look, but it's basically a from the Magic Killer position into a DDT. Gacy gets on the microphone and he said everyone's negativity affected the dyad, and that's why they've now joined with me. They are not alone in this line of thinking. There is now a schism between us and the three, or the three of us and the rest of NXT. And he said a little bit more, but really nothing of note or important. So basically, maybe teasing that someone else might join and that there's going to be like a war or something against NXT because they have a different mindset, which is what a schism means. It's a difference of an opinion of how things should be ran or governed or rules set. So Senga is now backstage on a couch. So Senga in his suit on a couch. He's got the Pan Am connection, Yulisa Leon and Valentina Farah on each side of him. So like really looking like a cool guy here. And Pan Am connection has a really short but super cute promo about wanting to go get some food. That was cute. It was like unforced and stuff, like the giggling from Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez earlier. But then Zion Quinn walks by angry at his loss. Senga tells Zion that you're no longer running straight, you're not even walking straight, and which pisses off Zion. Zion gets mad, and I swear when he's like, "What did you say?" or something like that, that it sounded like a Southern Florida man's accent more so than a New Zealand accent. So maybe Zion's picking up a little bit of that Southern twang on his accent, which I can tell you as a Northerner that once spent a week in Tennessee that I had a little bit of a twang when I called my mom after about 6 days, and she's like, "Oh, well, you got a little twang to your voice." So it is easy to kind of pick up accents if you're just around people that are speaking it the full time. Not like at the full accent, but here and there. So when he's yelling here, like, "What did you say?" It sounded more like a Southern man than Southern United States man than a New Zealand man, which was kind of funny. Just made me think he's picking up a Florida accent by being there. But Senga stands up after this, after Zion gets mad at him, but Zion immediately runs away because Senga's huge, and they made Zion look like really weak and wimpy here, and like a nerd. But Sanga looks great, and he's like, I think I found my new opponent. And Sanga is quickly becoming one of my favorite wrestlers. He's super natural at his acting, at his promos, and he also seems legitimately like the nicest man alive. So we could potentially see a big star here because he's got giant size. We've seen him in the ring a couple times now. It's nothing special, but maybe he can develop into being as good as like a Braun Strowman, which wasn't. Braun Strowman's not as great as anyone else. Like Braun Strowman isn't super great, but if you can get to at least that level, along with the personality that Sanga has, I think we have a pretty good chance of having a star here. Then we get a or not a backstage, but just like a regular video promo about Nikita Lyons. She's trying to train or rehabbing her. She tells us it was a partially torn MCL. I think she said MCL, but it might have been ACL. But I was running short on time, so I wanted to get the review out right when the show ended. But I think she said partially torn MCL. She's rehabbing, so no surgeries needed. And it doesn't look like it's going to be any giant time off. While she's been out injured, here's some news about like her, Nikita Lyons being big into the right wing stuff. So now a lot of people are very big fans of her. So it'll be interesting to see if Nikita Lyons, who was one of the more over faces on the roster, it'll be interesting to see if she gets booed next time we do see her. So look out for that, or maybe people just quickly forget about it. And then it's at this point where I was forgetting that it was taped. So this like blew my mind when this happened because I completely forgot that we weren't watching a live episode. But like I said, Troy Two Dimes Donovan got released last night, and we don't know why. They just said it was a policy issue, and he might be back in a month or a year. But so some kind of policy broken that apparently has a punishment of not being signed for a year. Have no clue what that could be. I'm sure we'll find out eventually. But here comes the family, including Troy Two Dimes Donovan, and I had completely forgotten it was taped at this point. So that was like, I was like, what? Like, Two Dimes is here. So then I remembered. So we get in the ring. There's a table set up. The full family's here, but again, no Alexa Lopez for the second week in a row. So apparently she wasn't part of this. You have to join the family stuff. So Alexa Lopez has just been missing for 2 weeks, and um, like I said, Troy Two Dimes Donovan is there since this was taped before he got released. And unfortunately for them, it looks like this segment is all about Stacks and Two Dimes, which is hilarious. So there's like a table and like some stuff on it in the corner of the ring. Tony D'Angelo's in the middle. The rest of the Legado del Fantasma's there. Stacks and Two Dimes are kind of front and center with Tony D'Angelo, where we get like the origin story of Stacks and Two Dimes, which is hilarious since he just got released. So unlucky on that. Unlucky, mate. Tony D'Angelo, it was their origin story, but it was just your typical stuff. I think he said something along the lines of Two Dimes whacked somebody, whacked them in the face, and stuff like that. So nothing groundbreaking on their origin story. Basically, he saw a couple ruffians and wanted them in the family. And now tonight he will promote them from associates to soldiers of the family. And he said business is booming, and he laughs and looks over at Santos. Appreciate it, Santos, he says. So um again, Santos forced the work for Tony D'Angelo now, and apparently either D'Angelo's stealing some of the assets that Legado del Fantasma already had in the bank, or just forced them to go rob and blackmail and launder money in the last week or so that they could do this. But he's got Tony D'Angelo's got really expensive watches and envelopes of probably huge amounts of money and stuff. And Stacks and Two Dimes each get those gifts, both of them. So they both get a watch and money. And this is what I'm starting to think. Well, maybe this whole Troy Two Dimes Donovan, like it's unfortunate as hell that he got released, and I'm definitely sad about it, and all the rest of that. It's not good, and hopefully he gets a second chance. But this could turn out to be really, really interesting for the story because we've taped these episodes now, and then whenever we come back and do tape episodes, uh, Two Dimes is just going to be missing. He's no longer here. We can no longer put him on television, which goes great with a mafia versus cartel storyline. It couldn't be more perfect. So it's unfortunate that Two Dimes got released, but it's going to work out perfect because now literally he can no longer be on TV, and they're just going to assume that Santos and the rest of the good Legado del Fantasma um eliminated him, like he's no longer living. and that should be the catalyst for the story going forward. And I'm excited to see how they do that. Tony D'Angelo then tells us after doing all the promoting Stacks and Two Dimes to soldiers of the family and giving them gifts, Tony tells us he wants the North American Championship, which, if you remember, there was that awkward Tony D'Angelo with Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes in the back last week. So Tony D'Angelo brings up he wants the North American Championship. Instantly cue Carmelo's music. He's out with Trick Williams. He said, "Oh no, I wrote down that last week really worked. So we were kind of wondering, but I realized by the end of me explaining the episode from last week why they did everything they did, and it worked. The crowd is really booing Carmelo Hayes here. So for whatever reason, they really wanted Carmelo to be getting booed, and they wanted Tony D'Angelo. So this kind of confirms that we've been thinking for maybe over a month now: is Tony D'Angelo a face? Even though he does like heel things, like is he supposed to be the guy that we're supposed to cheer here? And it certainly seems that way because last week they had Carmelo out of nowhere team with Grayson Waller, the most hated man in NXT, and also had Carmelo kind of out of character speaking down about the crowd. Usually he just doesn't even care about the crowd. He doesn't even talk about them. So um, all of that worked. Carmelo's getting way more booed now, and he's out getting booed. Like I said, Tony wanted the championship, and pretty good exchange. I would recommend if you like these characters to go watch this exchange of promos. I didn't write everything down. It didn't last forever, but I didn't write everything down. But basically, this exchange between so it was Trick, Carmelo, and Tony talking back and forth. Stacks and Two Dimes then speak up and they want to fight Carmelo and Trick Williams later. So Melo says, "Yeah, that looks like an easy layup. I'm in." So Melo not taking Stacks and Two Dimes serious whatsoever, whatsoever, and is fine with fighting them later. So then we get um, Duke Hudson and Braun Breaker in separate little short videos walking to the ring, both looking jacked as hell. Um, and we go to an ad break. So when we come back, Mandy Rose is in the Toxic Lounge. She's got the Toxic Attraction music playing while she's talking, and she's in the lounge. Of course, when the camera pans, Gigi and JC are there. All three talk trash about Indy, Cora, and Roxanne Perez. And Gigi says at a point it was pretty funny, like Indy would be friends with a plant if that plant would listen to all her complaining. So pretty funny, good heel stuff by the Mean Girls here in Toxic Attraction in their Toxic Lounge. Now Duke Hudson already in the ring, and I love that Wade Barrett just absolutely loves Duke Hudson because Duke Hudson is very similar to Wade Barrett in a lot of ways. So it's just, of course, Wade Barrett is in love with Duke Hudson. He just basically sees himself in him. Braun Breaker's now out and gets jumped from behind by Duke before the bell can even ring. The referee rings the bell. Braun immediately takes control. Couple big power moves, giant spear, and this match is over. This match lasted about 45 seconds, an NXT Championship World Heavyweight title match. 45 seconds. Duke Hudson. I'm expecting Duke Hudson will be on the next round of releases, which is upsetting. He's 6'5", got a good look to him, a decent character, can talk. I think you shouldn't release him, but man, if you're gonna make him just lose, give him a title shot and lose in 45 seconds, even after he jumped the guy from behind and had the advantage at the start of the match, and still lost in 45 seconds, might even have been 30 seconds. Phew, burial. So Duke Hudson probably on his way out. Cameron Grimes out now before the segment even ends. So Cameron Grimes, member, had that bumped in with Braun earlier, and Cameron says he wants to finish the conversation with Braun from earlier. Cameron says since Braun got here, they've never talked. Grimes says that if Braun didn't have the last name he has, which what do you mean, the Breaker last name? But no, they've already established that he is Rick Steiner's son, which makes it even more awkward that his name is Braun Breaker. But Cameron Grimes says if it wasn't for the last name you had, you wouldn't be champion. So we're getting a work shoot here because Um, if this is kayfabe, you win a championship because you win a match, not because someone else decides it because of your last name. So we're getting a work shoot here from Cameron Grimes, but it ended up being pretty decent and good fire from Cameron Grimes. Much better character than if you're gonna take away all his exaggerated stuff, which I thought was fine, and I enjoyed the exaggerated to the moon and all the super over exaggerated stuff he was doing. I didn't think was cringe. I thought it was entertaining. But then they just made him completely sedated once they gave him the North American title and had him talk about his father, how his father passed away right when he was signed to NXT and never got to see him wrestle in NXT, and he dedicated his title win at Stand and Deliver to his father and all of that, which is cool and all that, but it completely from there on out, he never was exaggerated. He never was eccentric anymore. He was just like sedated and stuff. But now he's like serious and like stuff like that. This character I can get behind, especially with a promo we see later on. But he's still in the ring. He's doing this work shoot with Braun. Like I said, he said, if it wasn't for your last name, you wouldn't be champion. He says he respects Braun, but he only got ahead of him due to his name. Everyone knows Braun's dad, but nobody knows Cameron Grimes' dad. He brings out how his dad, Cameron Grimes' dad, did not get to see him win NXT Gold, but Braun Breaker's dad got to see him and win NXT Gold in person. And Cameron Grimes believes his heart can take him further than Braun can ever go, and he wants to fight Braun for the title at Great American Bash, and that will be the match that we get at Great American Bash. It should be a decent match. I don't think there's any chance of Cameron Grimes winning, but you never know. We never thought Dolph Ziggler was going to beat Braun Breaker to begin with, and then we didn't think Dolph Ziggler was going to retain at Stand and Deliver, which he did. So wow, which brings me back to totally forgot Braun Breaker's won the second title. His second title reign started the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania in a random match against Dolph Ziggler for the title. So that'll be a good match, a good clash of styles. But Cameron Grimes has some power. He's not all athletic and high stuff moves. So interesting, but I'm sure he'll just take a big spear and get destroyed. But we will see a lot of heart out of him, I bet, and some good promos. This one right here was a good promo, despite being yet another work shoot, brother. I don't think we needed the. I think all he needed to say was you got to jump the line in the queue for title shots because of your last name, not you. If he that's what he meant, but he didn't explain it like that, so it makes it just seem like he's acknowledging that it's some guy in the back that decides who's champion and that everything's fake, which you never want to like admit that. Yeah, everybody knows that, but you don't watch the television show to have them tell you during the television show that it's fake. Like you don't watch I don't know, Game of Thrones, and then they look over and like these are all actors, you know that, right? Like they don't look over and wink and nod at you that what you're watching is, like dragons aren't real and this is fake fire and most of this is CGI, right? They don't tell you that while you're watching the act on the actual um show. So I don't know why I got so mad right there, but that was a good segment. Tatum Paxley's now in the back, and Ivy Now's talking to her, and I think they were in the which we find out they're standing in the Diamond Mine gym, and I was like, oh my gosh, finally, because I can't remember if it was regular NXT or on Level Up, but if you remember going all the way back to the women's Dusty Classic, Ivy Niles' partner was Tatum Paxley, and they lost in the first round. And up until Ivy Nile lost to Mako Sadamoto on NXT UK last week in a title match, which there's no harm in that having that be the first singles match. The only other match Ivy Niles lost was that tag team match with Tatum Paxley. Ivy Nile turned on Tatum Paxley, or at least like I think she hit her, but at least she yelled at her and told her to go away. And since then, I'm pretty sure it was like 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, Ivy Nile was talking to Tatum Paxley again in the back because Tatum Paxley, maybe the week before, was saying that she really wants to train with her. And I remember she wanted to join like Diamond Mine and train with Diamond Mine, but Ivy now didn't want to let Tay and Paxley in, but then like 5 weeks ago, like I said, she then said, "Okay, Ivy." Ivy comes and tells Tatum Paxley, "All right, we can be a tag team, we can train together and stuff." But then we never once got it talked about. We had Tatum Paxley in the breakout tournament and stuff, but never once did they talk about her association with Ivy or the Diamond Mine. So I was like, "Oh, finally!" But we get Ivy just basically saying, "Yeah, I've been watching you" and stuff like that. Um, but then the rest of Diamond Mine comes in and Tatum Paxley leaves because she like isn't a part of Diamond Mine and was in the Diamond Mine gym. So Roddy's upset that he saw someone that wasn't in Diamond Mine was in their gym, and he's like, "Ivy, why are you talking that loser? Like um, you've been talking down, talking to Ivy. This is Roderick Strong talking to Ivy. You've been talking down to Tatum Paxley to us for 4 or 5 months now. Like, why are you talking to that loser?" And then we see that Damon Kemp's there, and then the Creeds come in, and they don't like. And Roddy's like, "Oh, and what are you two shaking hands with your opponents after the match?" Like, so that's pretty funny. Roderick's clearly a heel. He doesn't even like shaking the hands. He doesn't like you talking to other people, other faces. Um, and basically, the segment comes down to the Creeds telling Roddy that they got Roddy and Damon Kemp a match next week. We're not told who it's against, and maybe it's against the Creeds. That'd be interesting, huh? So, Roddy says, "Oh, whoa, no, wait, my ankle is only at about 63%." So we're pretty much getting old school Roderick Strong here, like the one we saw in Undisputed Era. So they're letting Roderick have a little bit of his personality back, which I laughed a couple times in this segment, like with the stuff like, "Why are you talking to that loser? You've been talking down where and why are you shaking hands after a match? Like, how dare you?" And I can't have a match next week. My ankle's at like 63%. But then Ivy Nile and the rest of the Creeds tell Roderick like they tell him something that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well Roderick always tells us that," but they basically caught Roderick like in the corner, and Roderick has to agree to a match next week. So we don't know who it's against, but it'll be Roderick Strong and Damon Kemp versus someone next week. Next, we got Giovanni Vinci out. Again, this is Fabian Eichner. And again, like I said, the crowd did not chant anything about Fabian or Eichner or Imperium. So props to this crowd. They had two different opportunities tonight to chant people's old names and gimmicks, and they did not. So I know this crowd gets a lot of heat and a lot of hatred because they're the super marks of the WWE and they love everything, and I even agree that they were a little wrong to boo Cameron Grimes. Like, it's some people thought they booed Cameron Grimes right after Stand and Deliver because didn't get to see him win the title in person because that Stand and Deliver was in Dallas. And some people thought it was because he changed his character and he's no longer being eccentric, which I can agree. But that's not the time and place when he's out, literally out there saying, I did it for you, Dad," and the crowd's just boo, like complete. So I do agree that this crowd in the CWC can be a holes sometimes, but they were not a holes tonight, which I was thankful for. We get when we come back from break, so they just tell us that Giovanni's next, but he didn't make his entrance yet. And boy, let me tell you, he's got a great entrance. So before we get to that, we get some short highlights from the live shows. So that was nice to see. I basically only saw some of the stuff from the live shows in picture form. So just really, really not even 30 longer than 30 seconds, but a bunch of short little videos of stuff that happened. Von Wagner's now in the back, and he's got Mr. Stone and Sophia Cromwell with them, of course. Um, and they're being interviewed, but it looks like she wants to talk to Von Wagner, but Mr. Stone breaks in and says, "No, no, you talk to me." And Mr. Stone says Brooks and Jensen cheated last week and that they're going to pay. Sophia Cromwell then talks, which surprised me. I think this is the first time we've heard her voice. She's really good with her cadence. She sounds like a good actor, and this could definitely be why they made her a manager. Maybe she's going to be a wrestler at a point too, but she probably needs a lot of work as a in-ring competitor. But What they did notice, because I noticed it in this little short promo she had, is that she can talk. So Sophia Cromwell, I hope she can manage some other people other than Von Wagner, bring some more people in. Von Wagner already has another manager and mouthpiece, so Von Wagner with two managers and two mouthpieces. And we don't even quite understand what the story is going on here with Sophia Cromwell. The only thing we know is that if you look at her in the back, even just look at her, she's going to send Von Wagner over to beat you up and probably injure you. So her voice also reminds me of a former WWE women's wrestler legend. I can't quite, maybe Tori Wilson, but like way better of a talker than Tori. I can't quite remember, so I'll keep you updated throughout these weeks when we hear her talk some more, and maybe I'll remember. But she definitely reminds me. Her voice sounds like someone from the past. So now Giovanni Vinci's out. I don't quite remember. Oh yeah, so his music is like heat wave vibes, which was some pretty good music, and not quite what I expected. I expected like, I don't know, like opera music or like something you would hear, something more stereotypical Italian. Because let's be honest, this is WWE we're talking about. But no, he's got like this heat wave synth like vibe type music, which was unexpected, but I loved it. Excuse me. And then um his entrance is amazing. One of the best entrances I've seen in a while. Um so they've already established like in the Giovanni Vinci's vignettes where they were saying he's coming, and that's when we learned he's like an aristocrat that drives Ferraris and wears Gucci and stuff like that, and his tights are Gucci style. Um, but they've also established a Vinny Vinny Vici type deal, like as his catchphrase or something. So Giovanni Vinci is making his catchphrase. He poses at the top of the ramp, and you hear a camera click sound, and it freeze frames. And on the bottom, it says Vinny, and he's posing. And then he walks a little bit more after the freeze frame, and he gets to the steps, and he poses again, and it goes Vidi, and he's in the freeze frame, and he gets in the ring, poses again, and it says Vici, and he's doing the freeze frame. Really good entrance. Go check that out. Guru Raj is already in the ring, and the crowd chants Giovanni, which I was so thankful they didn't chant Fabian or Eichner or Imperium. Guru Raj has some new gear, so he stepped up his game. He did have some plain looking gear before, but now his gear is kind of looks like something that Austin Theory would wear. And Guru Raj is, he even says it on his um, Twitter page that he is the first Indian wrestler in WWE that's a high flyer. I'm not quite sure about that because maybe he said Indian born because I think the Singh brothers are born in Canada, but maybe they were born in India. But I'm pretty sure they were high flyers. Maybe not, but Guru Raj isn't totally small, but he's on the smaller side, but he's still maybe close to 6 foot. And probably on the lowest on the totem pole right now. Like Guru Raj is the extreme jobber of the men's division. So he's out here again, the job. But again, looking better and with his gear. And like I said, Vici, plain black gear, trunks and boots. But the trunks are made to look like they got the Gucci band on top, and it says his name on the butt of it, and it looks like it's like Gucci style. So as we already know, Fabian Eichner can go in the ring. He's a beautiful blend of strength and agility and high flying and technical wrestling. So um, he's a superstar in the making. I don't know if he can cut promos. So um, with this new gimmick they've got him going with, I wouldn't be surprised since we already know Fabian Eichner can go. So he doesn't really need any more training in NXT. So maybe this was just to iron out his entrance and stuff like that and see if it worked or if they need to make a couple changes with his gear or his entrance or his music, stuff like that. But I would not be surprised at all if as soon as next Friday, as in 3 days from now, we could see um, Giovanni Vinci joined the Maximum Male Models LA Knights new group as LA Knights new name Max Dupree and his new stable Maximum Male Models. He will be unveiling the first Now we already assumed that Mace and Mansoor were going to be joining Maximum Male Models, but they could also bring in Giovanni Vinci, I think, at any point here. So he's ready to leave NXT right now. He didn't get to join with his former tag partner, now named Ludwig Kaiser, and this would put them on the same show, which could be awkward. But I think you could keep Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci away from each other long enough. But I loved everything about this match, even though it was short. Giovanni Vinci's great. He wins with a nasty sit down last ride, and that looked great. And we go to Solo Sikoa in the back. He wants the North American title, of course. He's like always saying, "I got next," but he didn't have next, so now he's even more madder. Grayson Waller interrupts his little interview and says Solo only won because Apollo was there, and pretty funny exchange here, but sets up a match for next week. Solo Sikoa versus Grayson Waller. So that should be a pretty good match. I'm assuming Solo Sikoa will win it. Grayson doesn't need to win all his matches. He still has a lot of heat left over in the bank from destroying Johnny Gargano. Um, but his character is also annoying and great as well. Mello and Trick are now out with their matching shirts, and I think it was Marky D who he watches wrestling shows once a month, and he picks different shows and he goes in without knowing what's going on, who's on it, stuff like that. And he saw Mel and Trick and like, oh, it looked like they were like boyfriends with each other. And they kind of do. They're out here with their matching shirts. One says Mello don't miss, the other says whoop that Trick, and which was pretty funny. I can't get that out of my mind when I see them together now, but they do have great chemistry with each other and they look like superstars. What I did in my universe mode is eventually I put them with MVP, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin to form the new Hurt Business. So I think they could be stars on the main roster at any point here. Mello's definitely a better wrestler than Trick. Trick's got a bigger size, maybe even looks like a bigger star than Mello. Mello has a lot more experience, and Trick has gained a lot of good stuff in the last few months. He's improved a lot. So they come out and they're gonna fight Stacks and Two Dimes next. So we go to ad break. When we come back backstage, we see Idris and Malik. They're talking about how they're gonna go out to the club now. Grimes or Cameron Grimes comes up to them and tells them they need to be more serious. Like, why are you going to the club? The show's not even over. Like, starting to get a little bit of mad at them. Like, why would you leave before the main event? He talks about like, look at you, Idris Enofi, and this is what I've been saying. Exactly what I've been saying about Idris Enofi. Cameron Grimes says here on television, which is great. He says like, you look like you're chiseled. You look like you're a statue. You have endless amounts of potential. You shouldn't be going out to the club. Like, basically, Idris Enofe and Malik Blade says like they're not too bothered by losing the tag titles tonight. And they'll have another opportunity. And Grimes tells them, yeah, but will you? Will you have another opportunity? Like, you don't ever know if you're going to have another opportunity. You worked hard to get that opportunity, and now you're blowing it off like it was nothing. And you need to wake up and realize your full potential. So if this is the new version of Cameron Grimes that we're getting, this is a Cameron Grimes I can definitely get behind. I love the eccentric, exaggerated version that we got forever, but I hated the sedated version that we got ever since he was NXT champion. Now this is a more serious Cameron Grimes that I can definitely get behind, a mixture between the two. Because everything he said to them was absolutely true. So the whole family's now we go back to the ring. Remember Mello and Trick are already out. The whole family's out, but still no Electra Lopez. It's been 2 weeks now that Legado del Fantasma has been part of the Tony D'Angelo family, but we have not seen Electra Lopez. So maybe she got injured in your house or something along those lines. But nothing special in this match. Not too long at the end. Cruz del Toro of Legado Fantasma tries to help out the family, tries to help out Stacks and Two Dimes, but he accidentally hits either Stacks or Two Dimes instead, and Mello picks up the win. So now we're in the back after an ad break, and Tony D'Angelo's not happy, but Santos is like laughing and smiling in the background. And Tony D'Angelo yells at all of them. So we go back to the ring. It's time for our main event. Indy Hartwell's out. Maybe some new music and new Titantron. So looks like they might I could definitely see Indy Hartwell beating Mandy Rose for the title. Like I've been saying on these, I believe that all of Toxic Attraction should be on SmackDown right now. And if it was me, I would have Mandy Rose beat Ronda Rousey through cheating for the SmackDown title, and then you can have Rousey chase Mandy Rose for a couple months. I think that would be better than just having Ronda Rousey as champion for the entire summer. So Indy's out. Like I said, I think it's new music, but only about 5 seconds into her entrance, Roxanne Perez comes out, and then 5 seconds later, Cora Jade's music hits, and Cora comes out. And like I said, this is the main event, 6 women tag. Um, when Toxic Attraction's making their entrance all together, all three of them, Vic says over the Wade Barrett that what are you winking at your monitor back at Mandy for? So that was pretty funny. One word to describe this Toxic Attraction entrance, and that's dump truck. And moving on quickly, Cora Jade, she looks a lot more mature than usual, which I like this look a little bit better. She kind of had like a teenager look beforehand. This looks more like a 20 something year old would. And we get a toxic waste chant from the crowd. So the crowd's a really good crowd tonight. Clever chants, and not chanting Fabian Eichner or grizzled young veterans. So props to the crowd tonight. Typical 6 man tag stuff. I would say definitely go watch this match. It's setting up all the title matches and stuff going forward. And these are 6 of your biggest um what do you call them, prospects in the minor leagues. So if you're interested in women's wrestling, go watch this match. It's your typical 6 man stuff, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I didn't write down every move because there's a lot of moves, so it's basically a showcase match. We get to see what everybody's good moves are and stuff in this match. A lot of in and out tagging, a lot of rotation, people in and out. Again, Roxanne Perez looks like the best out of all 6 of them. So no matter who's Roxanne's Perez is in the ring with in NXT, she's pretty much the best wrestler. Indie or team, they're called Team 2001 unofficially. That's Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez, the year they were born. The year I was a sophomore in high school, so that's awkward. But they were in control, and when we go to break, a picture-in-picture ad break, so we get to see what happens. By within all of that, Toxic Attraction gains control again by the time we get back. Indy's, I noticed, is using her size well in this match, which I'd like to see more of. Indy does look like a powerhouse compared to a lot of these women. Nothing amazing, but a solid match, and it sets up all the title matches. So, and at one point, awkwardly, Wade Barrett calls Roxanne a pocket rocket, which, if I'm not mistaken, is slang for a hard on. So, maybe a mistake there, or maybe did on purpose. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what a pocket rocket is. Maybe I'm wrong. Cora Jade and Roxy eventually get Gigi isolated after a lot of action was going on, but they tag team different moves. Cora Jade does a senton from the top, tags back in Roxanne, who just gets the cover. So showing that Cora Jade and Roxanne are a well-oiled machine who doesn't even care who gets the win, and that ends the show. So decent show overall. I didn't really notice that it was a tape show much, other than seeing Troy Donovan, who just got fired yesterday, out there. And then I had already heard that Cameron Grimes, the one thing I was spoiled about is that Cameron Grimes was going to be the new opponent for Braun Breaker. So we didn't have to wait long for that spoiler to be played on TV. We got that tonight. I enjoyed the new character from Cameron Grimes. I enjoyed that the fact that they said on TV that Idris Enofe looks like he has all the potential in the world, because that's exactly what I've been noticing. And they definitely go look up the Apollo Crews in a Diner segment, little mini movie. That was really good. He might now have time traveling ability. Either that, or he just likes to act. Either that, or he daydreams stuff, and then if he likes what he daydreams, he does it in real life. So one of those two things. We got Wendy Chu is literally Doink the Clown now, the face version of Doink the Clown, the bad version. So that's not great. But setting up more, the Lash Legend promo was amazing. The Nathan Frazier promo was amazing, both explaining their backstories. More of that, please. We got the Dyad, didn't look like they could see out of their stuff. Sangha continues to be one of the best. We got the update from Nikita Lyons about her partially torn MCL, but it probably won't be gone too long. And finally, a little bit of follow up on the Tatum Paxley Ivy Nile stuff, and Roderick Strong getting his personality back from Undisputed Era. So a lot happened tonight. Giovanni Vinci looked great. I loved his entrance. Go check out his entrance. I was laughing the entire time. Once like we got to the second of the three poses because I knew exactly what they were doing. So before I get going, like I said, I'm gonna go through the roster. We're almost at the halfway point, and it looks like we're at some taped versions of stuff. So I'm gonna switch on over to the other. I got the Wikipedia page all set up, and I'm gonna do that now. But again, I would say a thumbs up from the show. For me, it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything like that, but it wasn't terrible either. So let's go to the roster, and this is for NXT. And I'll try to just quickly go, kind of give them the mid-year report, see what they've been doing and what I see in the future. So we start with an interesting one. Remember, A Kid came in just before Stand and Deliver, I believe, and he almost got into the, or maybe he was in the big ladder match for the North American title, but I don't think he made it. And I also don't think we've seen A Kid on the roster ever since. Now, his character was just released as DLC on the WWE 2K22 this week. So I'm assuming they still got big plans for him, but we have not seen A Kid in a couple months now. Andre Chase was inactive from tonight's episode. But we've seen a lot of him lately. He's had a pretty good year setting up the Andre Chase University, Chase U. He's brought in Bodie Hayward as his prize pupil, and they form a tag team now. And he's also just recently brought in their first female competitor, 18-year-old Thea Hale. So Andre Chase has been just recently feuding with Pretty Deadly, and I'm sure that story will pick back up next week. We've got Apollo Crews, the latest addition to the NXT roster, coming back down after he was Intercontinental Champion a year or so ago, but hasn't done much since and has been buried on main event and the 24/7 segments. So glad to see him back in NXT. He might have time travel abilities now. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But he's back to his original gimmick, and it doesn't look like Commander Aziz is with him. So we'll see what happens going forward. And I would expect to see Apollo Crews with the NXT title at some point in 2022. Boa, we have not seen in all of 2022, but they said I heard him say on Twitter that he should be back soon. Boa has been on the NXT roster for about 3 years, I believe. We've seen him wrestle at least like 20, 30, maybe even 40 times on television. He used to be part of Tian Shao with Xia Li and Wendy Chu's former gimmick, Mei Ying. And Boa was a big part of that group. Then when Mei Ying left or was gone, it seemed she seemingly passed her powers over to Boa, who sometimes came out without the face paint and sometimes did. And they established that Boa didn't have the ability to control the craziness of the Mei Ying, whatever evil spirit power. And sometimes he was himself. He had a good feud with Solo Sikoa, if you remember, which ended with the final match was set up with Boa spitting a fireball in Solo Sikoa's face. And then in that final match, I think it might even have been a ladder match or some kind of hardcore match. But Solo Sikoa's scar from the burn fell off mid-match, which was pretty hilarious. But I don't think we've seen Boa ever since that match, which was a while ago. But I expect to see Boa again soon. He's got some good size to him. He's about 6'3", 6'4". He's like a kickboxer type gimmick as far as his in-ring style, like Muay Thai and kickboxing. And I hope he can improve and get on the main roster eventually. Bodie Hayward, like I said, was the prize pupil of Andre Chase University. We didn't see him this week, but he was last week beat up by Pretty Deadly and leaving Andre Chase in a handicap match. We haven't seen a ton of matches out of Bodie Hayward. Seems to be super young, but has a great look to him. Very powerhouse, and he does have a really good move that I can't remember ever seeing before, where it's dropping down and doing the drop downs like you would in American football, but splashing the opponent while doing the drop downs. Maybe someone like Dr. Death Steve Williams did that in the past, but I don't quite remember ever seeing that before. Braun Breaker, two-time NXT champion, lost the NXT title to Dolph Ziggler and failed to regain it at Stand and Deliver, the biggest show of the year for NXT. But then the biggest Raw of the year, the Raw after WrestleMania, Braun Breaker appeared and got a rematch against Dolph Ziggler and won the title back. So currently in his second reign, he is the son of Rick Steiner. I expect big things and maybe even a Brock Lesnar type run out of him before his career is all over. He's not quite as tall as I bet Vince McMahon wishes, but he's very got a great frame on him, very very muscular, has a very explosive moves, one of the best spears in the business currently, and has power moves galore. So straight out of the 1980s, we don't have a lot of people like this on the roster. So it's good to have people like this on the roster. I don't like how they're using his storyline so much is all about like his father and stuff like that. So we're going from the Joe Gacy stuff. He just finished that long, terrible feud, which did nothing good for Braun came out of the feud with Joe Gacy and all the spooky stuff and druids and dad kidnapping and stuff like that. Did Braun no favors. But maybe in the long run that'll prepare Braun Breaker for when he's in awkward situations on either Raw or SmackDown, which he'll be put in eventually. And that might have been their mindset. Maybe have him get it out of his system now so he can be more natural in those later on. Anyway, he now looks to be in a feud with Cameron Grimes, who again is bringing up Braun Breaker's father. So we just can't get away from that. And I expect Braun Breaker will retain the title at Great American Bash, but I don't expect him to be in NXT much longer. He's coming up on a full year, and I expect once he gets around that full year, he'll be brought up to the main roster sometime after SummerSlam. I would expect maybe SmackDown. So Brooks Jensen, he's part of the tag team with Josh Briggs. They're a country boy tag team. Brooks Jensen is the virgin loser of the two. We've seen many segments of Brooks Jensen trying to find girlfriends and stuff like that. So he's pure comic relief if you're into dick jokes and jerking off jokes, like he broke his right hand and now he can't jerk off kind of deal. So if you're into that kind of stuff, along with the country boy gimmicks, then that's the tag team for you. Brooks Jensen is, as you see here, his last name is Buchanan. His real name Ben Buchanan, and that is because he is Bull Buchanan's son. If you remember Bull Buchanan from the Right to Censor, from being tag teams with Big Boss Man, and also a tag team with John Cena early in John Cena's career. So second generation wrestler. Hopefully, I see some improvement. I haven't seen much improvement. He hasn't had much in the ring, but he seems to be finding all these weird backstage segments they got him doing. Brutus Creed, he's the larger of the two Creed brothers. I think they mentioned that he was undefeated as an NCAA wrestler and that he's pushing almost 300 pounds. So big boy, but very agile and light on his feet. A good amateur wrestling style mixed with some powerhouse, and he's got a great cannonball dive from the top rope. So I see big things out of the Creed brothers. They've improved a ton in the 8-9 months that we've seen them. They're part of the Diamond Mine, and it seems to be a power struggle in the Diamond Mine between the Creed brothers, who are Ivy Niles on their side, versus Roderick Strong and Damon Kemp. Seems to be a power struggle there. Cameron Grimes, I've pretty much explained all of him in this. If you remember, he was Trevor Lee in Impact, former X Division champion, I think multiple time. He was trained by the Hardy Boys. He's from Cameron, North Carolina, and or at least really near Cameron, North Carolina. And of course, just had the North American Championship that he won at Stand and Deliver, the biggest show of the year. Won it in a multi-man ladder match in honor of his father. They at that time had taken away all the eccentric to the moon and how you doing and stuff like that. They took all that away and just made him this like sedated version of himself, which was boring. Now tonight he seems to have taken things more serious and seems to be the number one contender for the NXT World Championship. So that should be a good match against Braun Breaker. I don't expect Grimes to win, but you never know in NXT. We never thought Dolph Ziggler would win the title from Braun. So Carmelo Hayes, he came into NXT with a little bit more experience than the other wrestlers in his class and the class before him and after him. So has shown himself to be one of the best wrestlers on the roster. Seemingly fine in any of his promos. Carmelo Hayes has a great character, um, kind of like a hip hop vibes. He's got backstage segments in barber shops with his friend Trick Williams and all his like crew of people where they talk in the barber shop. Some really good stuff, and one of the best and highlights of 2022 NXT and all of NXT 2.0 since it existed. So Carmelo Hayes currently the North American champion, the A champion as he calls it, in his second reign. Channing Lorenzo, that is Stax, just lost his tag team partner. Two Dimes just got released for at least a year, they said. So we'll see what Channing Lorenzo does going forward. He was the one that came out of the independent scene with a little more buzz than Troy Donovan did. So Channing Lorenzo was playing kind of a like goofball face, I'm wild and crazy and I'm eccentric kind of character in the indies. Now they've got him playing this straight man, hoodlum, gangster, thug type guy. He's been playing the role all right. I believed in him more than I did Troy Donovan. And now it seems like unless they tag team Lorenzo with someone else, it looks like Lorenzo will now be in singles action. So he's definitely very low on the totem pole of the depth chart right now, but a lot of room for improvement. I could see him moving up. So a lot of the reports are that Commander Aziz is also going to accompany Apollo Crews to NXT. Nothing has quite been confirmed yet, as far as I know. But from what they're saying in the rumors, Aziz will be on NXT, but he will not be associated with Apollo Crews. So I could see them giving him yet another name change and another gimmick change. If you remember, he was Baba Tunda as part of Raw Underground along with Omos. So as far as I know, I think that Aziz has been on has been signed by WWE for about 7 years and only has about 20 matches in those 7 years. No joke. Um, Cruz del Toro, that's the former Raul Mendoza, which of course Raul Mendoza is his real name, so we had to change it. And I could have swore Raul Mendoza was from Chile and not Mexican, so maybe his Wikipedia page is wrong. But I could have swore Raul Mendoza was from Chile, and that's when we first saw him in the original Cruiserweight Classic. So now he's tag team with the former DJZ, Zima Ion. As the tag team of Legado del Fantasma. So Cruz del Toro, that's a pretty good name as far as all the renames. He drew the better straw. Damon Kemp, if you guys don't know, if you look over here, is Bobby Stevenson, the older brother of Gable Stevenson, also an amateur wrestler, but not quite as on the Olympic level as Bobby Stevenson. They did not let him keep the Stevenson name. You never know if they maybe will give him it later on. Maybe he'll be a tag team with his brother on Raw. We never know, but currently he's Damon Kemp. He had a few matches on Level Up before. Then saw him on the regular NXT show as Roderick Strong's latest addition to the Diamond Mine. You can also catch Damon Kemp over on NXT UK right now, where he's been doing some. Just last week, a hilarious segment where Wolfgang, if you remember from the original NXT UK tournament, Scottish guy, Wolfgang took Damon Kemp to some. It looked like it was 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and they were drinking pints outside and just like getting drunk in the daytime, and it was pretty funny. It looked like what's his name? Wolfgang was making his Scottish accent even more exaggerated for the American Kemp, which was funny. Like I said, Dante Chen, I mentioned earlier because he was on NXT tonight, has one of the best entrances going right now. The first ever Singaporean born WWE wrestler. And he's got a great look, some good size to him. I think he's at least 6 foot. And Another like guy with that can throw some good Muay Thai knees and a little bit of martial arts behind him and a little bit of MMA. Got a good entrance where he looks like he's straight out like Assassin's Creed, and I expect good things from him. I hope they give him some time because he's not quite a polished product, but I think he could be polished into something good. Brandon Vink or Brandon Vink, Duke Hudson is after tonight, man. I could see Duke Hudson's definitely getting released soon, which is unfortunate because he's like 6'5", got a great look to him, looks like a superstar, decent wrestler with some good power moves, good charisma. Not like the best talker in the world, but not the worst either. And I think the charisma can make up for it, but I don't know. A lot of people online don't seem to like him either, so apparently the WWE doesn't like him. Idris Enofe, like I've been saying time and time again, probably has the biggest potential out of any of these newcomers. Um, like I say that as in like I think Melo is already further along and closer to like where he could be, and maybe Melo's going to be the bigger star overall. But I think the sky's the limit for Idris Enofe, and I hope that they give him some time. Don't bring him up to the main roster too soon. Maybe eventually we can get Idris Enofe as NXT champion. What happened in my universe mode is I had a Royal Rumble at the Vengeance Day pay-per-view, and the winner of that was going to get the title shot at the biggest pay-per-view of the year for NXT Stand and Deliver. So in my universe mode, Idris Enofe won, got the title shot in his hometown of Los Angeles, and won the NXT title against Tony D'Angelo at Stand and Deliver right before the Hollywood WrestleMania 32. So I don't know if he's going to be winning the title that soon, but I would love to see the title on him eventually and eventually become a big star. Elton Prince, what a great name they gave him. Elton Prince is a great name for a British pretty boy type guy. Um, he's part of the Pretty Deadly tag team. They've got some great chemistry together, some great outfits, some great promos. I could definitely see them on the main roster and hopefully pretty soon because we definitely need some new blood in the tag divisions on Raw and SmackDown. Exemplified by we've already established that Street Profits are the only ones possibly that could challenge the Usos other than the New Day and the Rated RK Bro who aren't active currently. So we need some more blood in there. Giovanni Vinci, I've talked about him plenty in tonight. The former Fabian Eichner had to change his name, didn't get invited to go alongside his Imperium mates, Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser. Now out on his own. I would love this. He's already really, really polished in the ring. Again, just like Raul Mendoza, we first saw him in the original Cruiserweight Classic and pretty much has been with them ever since, gaining experience, getting better, and a brilliant blend of power, size, agility, speed, high risk moves, and technical ability. This guy has it all. So if he doesn't make it in WWE, I would love to see him on in New Japan or anywhere else for that matter, because he could work any style. Grayson Waller, another one of my favorites, the biggest heel on NXT after he attacked and took out Johnny Gargano, and we've never seen Johnny Gargano ever since. And ever since then, Waller's been on a roll with this cocky, kind of Miz-like attitude and promo, but seems a lot cooler than Miz, kind of a hip hop kind of guy. Um, but like a lot of people think he's nerdy about it, which also is good for a heel. So Grayson Waller, I think, is improving in the ring week after week as well. He's another Australian on the roster. They've got a lot of Australians, and I think he could go all the way to the main roster for sure. Guru Raj, as I mentioned earlier, probably the lowest on the totem pole as far as regular male wrestlers on the NXT roster. Guru Raj did get upgrade his outfit tonight, so he at least looked a little bit better. We've never seen him get a full entrance on NXT programming, but he does come in to do job matches every now and then, including tonight against he lost to Fabian Eichner's new gimmick, Giovanni Vinci. So Ikemen Jiro, he's got one of the best entrance music. I think I'm a little bit biased because I'm a fan of J-pop girl idol bands, but Ikemen Jiro's got one of those like girl idol J-pop songs. Love the entrance. Gimmick's pretty cool as far as a comedy slash face with a carefree attitude type gimmick. He wears his jacket in the ring. He's instead of strong style, it's style strong because he's all about um being stylish clothing and stuff. Ikemen is like a title or a term in Japanese that means cool guy or cool man, or so kind of like we would say like a cool man would be like the James Dean type or the Fonz type back in the day. So stuff like that. Ikemen Jiro, he's good in the ring. They don't give him a lot of like respect as far as being a serious wrestler. He was tag teaming with Kushida, but now Kushida got his release and is probably back on his way to New Japan, and which leaves Ikemen Jiro. He's been getting stalked by Von Wagner a little bit and doesn't seem to have any current allies. But we did see on the live show for NXT that he was the mystery partner for Andre Chase, since I maybe they were selling that Bodie Hayward was still selling his injuries from getting beat up by Pretty Deadly. But Ikemen did have a really good match on Level Up just last week, so go check that one out. I think it was against Dante Chin. James Drake, was one of the members of Grizzled Young Veterans. They couldn't even make a 5 or 6 team tag team gauntlet match, which showed them where they were on the pecking order, and they took that and ran over to join Joe Gacy, and they are now the Dyad, the Robes Druids, and they made their debut as the Dyad in a winning effort tonight. Joaquin Wild, he used to be DJ Zima Ion. He's Raul Mendoza's tag team partner in Legado del Fantasma. That you could definitely bring all of the Legado del Fantasma up to the main roster at any point. All of them are ready. So right now they're still in NXT doing their thing. They're stuck in as part of Tony D'Angelo's family. We'll see where that story goes, but I'm assuming the story is going to go that recently fired two dimes goes missing, and they all assume that Legado del Fantasma put a hit out on him or did it themselves. Joe Gacy, he started out as I liked his original character. It was basically the right wingers version of what they think a left wing nut job would be like. So that was kind of funny and interesting all at the same time. He wanted everything to be all inclusive. He didn't like the cruiserweight title because it was like not inclusive to bigger people, um, and stuff like that. He had that his heavy at the time was the giant Harlan Parker Boudreaux, who recently got fired, and he moved on to having these druids as his backup instead. One of the worst feuds. I'm sure it'll win worst feud of the year in the Wrestling Observer. Joe Gacy versus Braun Breaker. Thankfully that and hopefully that's done forever, and they've moved on now. He's currently just trying to establish the dyad as a tag team, and we'll see where they go from there. Josh Briggs, he's the partner of Brooks Jensen, the more serious and better wrestler of the two of the cowboy type tag team, the redneck. They met in a bar, him and Briggs, or him and Jensen met in a bar and had a bar fight against each other, but then bought each other beers after and became friends and wanted to beat other people up as a tag team. So that's their origin story. They eventually hooked up with bar owner Fallon Henley at the bar they went to, and Fallon Henley is now a wrestler who associates herself with them going forward as in a trio, multi-gendered trio. Julius Creed, he's the smaller of the two Creed brothers, but probably the better wrestler. He doesn't have the big power moves, but more of like your Daniel Bryan and Zack Sabre Jr. type moves, along with some good uh, Shelton Benjamin type amateur wrestling slash pro wrestling in transition in the pro wrestling type. So I definitely see Julius Creed having a good career as the Creed brothers going forward. They could be together for like 10 years, just like the Usos. It looks like WWE is more hesitant to break up tag teams that are legitimate brothers. Pretty Deadly, the other member of Pretty Deadly is Kit Wilson. Not quite as cool of a name as Alton Prince. He's the didn't get as cool a name, and he's also probably people like the blonde guy better than the brunette guy. So kind of playing almost de facto version, Marty Jannetty of Pretty Deadly to Elton Prince's Shawn Michaels. I like that they don't know either of the real names of Pretty Deadly. That's kind of funny. Malik Blade, you see here is a Dawkins for all you 90s NBA fans. That is Daryl Dawkins' nephew, or maybe even cousin, but I'm pretty sure nephew. And he's the tag team partner of Idris Enofe. They got all the way to the second round of the Dusty Classic after beating Legado del Fantasma. Came up short against MSK. Got a title shot tonight, didn't win it, and then Cameron Grimes put the two of them on blast for not taking that loss serious. And so we should maybe see a more serious version of Malik Blade and Idris Enofe going forward. Nathan Frazier, I touched on, the former Ben Carter, chose WWE over AEW, and is already established as a very good wrestler. His match against Cameron Grimes 3 weeks ago in the main event was awesome, and I see great things from him going forward. Kind of established a partnership. I don't know if they've had a tag team match together yet, but a little bit of partnership with Wes Lee, so that could be a good tag team going forward if that's the route they want to go. Odyssey Jones, I think he was the winner of the first or the last male breakout tournament we had. Unfortunately, had a knee injury not long after, and he's been out with a knee injury ever since. I think we've seen him once or twice backstage, but now I don't think we've seen him at all in 2022. So I could expect to see Odyssey Jones returning maybe anytime in the summer or just after, just when fall and autumn is starting. Roderick Strong did ask for his release from NXT not that long ago. He would much prefer to be in AEW with all his Undisputed Era friends, as well as his wife, Marina Shafir, all heavily featured on AEW television. Roderick Strong still is being featured pretty heavily in AEW, where he is probably the most veteran, 20 plus year veteran of the business, has done it all, has been in all the big major promotions other than AEW, and basically is not only the on-screen coach of the Dynamite, but probably a coach for everybody in the on the roster, which WWE wants him to be a coach for all those people, but they also don't want yet another Undisputed Era member on the Rivals television promotion. So I'm not quite sure when his contract runs up, but that could be something we could look into. I'm assuming he will not re-sign. Ru Fang, also from China, just like Boa. Um, his is more of like a kung fu Bruce Lee type uh, style, as opposed to Boa has more of the Muay Thai kickboxing style. Again, good size to him, 6'3", 6'4", somewhere around there. Long hair, looks like a classic like kung fu movie type guy. He's got the leather pants with a dragon on it and a black belt. But we have not seen him, just like Boa. We have not seen Rufang in 2022. Hasn't really been featured on NXT very much before that, unlike Boa, who had been featured regularly. So Ru Fang still on the roster. I don't know. They're giving a lot of extra time to the Chinese contingent because Boa and Ru Fang and also Erica Yan have all three been on the NXT roster for a long time now, and all three of them aren't being featured, even on Level Up. Anyway, Sangha, like I said, is one of my favorite new wrestlers on the NXT roster. He just genuinely seems like a really nice guy. He seems like his promos seem like a genuine person talking, just like instead of reading a script. So as long as Sangha can continue to improve in the ring, he definitely has a place. It says here national kickboxing gold medalist with, I mean, this guy is pushing 7 feet. He's probably 6'9", 6'10" maybe, and way over 300 pounds. A really big guy, Braun Strowman size guy. I can't imagine him kickboxing. So he's got some legitimate background, legitimate athletic background, and really good promos, really good character. Seems like a nice guy. The sky's the limit for Big Sangha, who is still very green in the ring. Santos Escobar, on the other hand, probably even or most definitely even more experienced than Roderick Strong, if you can believe it. Santos Escobar is second generation. His father, um, El Fantasmo, and then Santos Escobar worked as El Fantasmo Jr. You might also remember him as King Cuerno, one of my favorite characters from Lucha Underground. He came into NXT, eventually unmasked, and showed himself as the leader of Legado del Fantasma alongside Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde. Later on, bringing Elektra Lopez into the group as well. Currently lost the match at so they lost the match at In Your House, and now Legado del Fantasma has to work as part of and underneath Tony D'Angelo and his family. You could bring Santos Escobar up to the main roster at any point and he would be great. Like I said, he has been wrestling since he was like 15 years old, and now he's like in his mid 30s. He's got to strike while the iron's hot while he's still in his prime. And I really, really need a pay per view match between Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio before Rey gets any older. Solo Sikoa, he is the youngest brother or the younger brother of the Usos. He has shown definite improvement since had his first match, not maybe about 8 months ago, 9 months ago in NXT. And everybody in the crowd knows he's an Uso. They chant like "We the Ones" and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised at any given moment we could see Solo Sikoa called up to SmackDown to join the Bloodline if they ever need an extra body. Tony D'Angelo, one of the big one of the big hits out of the new NXT 2.0 that nobody saw coming. Nobody really knew him from the independent scene before this. They brought Tony D'Angelo in through some vignettes talking about he's from Chicago. His family was part of the waste management, and he was talking like this, like about wise guys, and straight out of like Sopranos. And he's to this day has continued to be an exaggerated mafia type character, maybe even slightly offensive to the Italian Americans out there, but maybe they can take a joke because it's not supposed to be taken serious. And I think they even have him as a face, even though he does heel things, because everybody seems to just really love his character and people don't want to boo him. So I think they're just setting him up and to be in situations where people can just cheer for Tony D'Angelo despite him cheating and stuff. So interesting character there. I like that he brought in a family. He just got one of his family members released, where we know now they can go in a storyline with the Gato del Fantasma, put a hit out on Two Dimes. So that's where that story is probably going to go now that Two Dimes is legitimately fired. Trick Williams is the partner of Mello. Really big guy, former defensive end from the University of South Carolina. Really good at athletic background, really big size to him, can talk on the mic, has charisma. Um, Booker T like charisma. And I think the sky's the limit for Trick Williams as well. Another one of the biggest prospects here, a blue chipper, if you will. He's improved a lot. It started out very green, but in the last month or two has definitely shown signs of understanding and being a lot more comfortable in the ring, which is like half the battle right there. So Von Wagner, on the other hand, still doesn't really look that comfortable in the ring. They brought Von Wagner in on the debut episode of NXT 2.0. There was supposed to be a title match, but Von Wagner took the injured guy's spot. Maybe it was Kyle O'Reilly, who eventually he formed a tag team with before O'Reilly left. And Von Wagner was he's another second generation wrestler. Cal Bloom's son, or Cal Bloom, I think is his father's name, so I think maybe he's a junior. But he was one of the Beverly brothers, if you remember from the or mid '90s, which that was the era I was started watching. So um, it looks like he. Oh, that's just Wayne Bloom was his father. So Von Wagner is really tall, but not like 6'9", 6'10", more like 6'6", 6'7". A little bit clunky in the ring and really clunky on the promos, which he has not one but two managers slash mouthpieces now in Mr. Stone and Sophia Cromwell. And it seems like they really have high expectations for Von Wagner, and I assume he's always going to be one of those guys, basically the next Baron Corbin, where the crowd isn't gonna like him and barely even boo him like they're supposed to. Wesley, I've pretty much told you his whole story. The former Desmond Xavier from NXT and from Impact. He is two-time NXT Tag Champion under SK. Lost his partner with all that controversy. Now as a singles wrestler, he's formed an alliance with Nathan Frazier seemingly, and also has had a storyline with Sangha where he kind of was upset at Sangha at first, but I think they're also so maybe a little bit of alliance here with Wesley, Sangha, and Nathan Frazier. Wesley has now beaten Zion Lee twice, which are pretty big wins because I think they have a lot of hope for Zion Lee in the future. And the next one, or Zion Quinn, my apologies. I was mixing him up with Zion Lee, but Zion Quinn is the next one on the list. As you see here with his little picture, he was a former rugby player from New Zealand, where rugby is king in New Zealand, and he's got a great look to him. He looks like he's a Maori or Samoan or Tongan, something along those lines. And he's got the tribal tattoos, just like all the Usos, The Rock, Roman Reigns. Isn't quite as big as maybe you'd think, but still a pretty big guy, maybe like 6'2", 250 pounds, got 240, something along those lines. And from what I hear, he used to be a hellacious tackler in rugby, and it definitely can translate to the ring some. He's got an aggressive style. He's got a great look to him, great gear. His motto is straight out of the rugby vernacular, "Run it straight," which is in rugby kind of means to like just run it straight, man. Run through everybody. Like don't look to the side. Don't dilly dally on anything else. Just set your goal and accomplish that goal. It's not that hard to understand. I don't know why that's been a gimmick on TV. Where what does run it straight mean? So Zach Gibson rounds out our male roster, and this is only the people they have here on Wikipedia as the official. There's some of the Performance Center male rosters I'll still go through as well after I do the females. So on the males side, last one Zach Gibson, the other part of Grizzled Young Veterans, now named the Dyad. They are the Druids for Joe Gacy, and they made their debut at least as the Druids, as the Dyad. So the first time as the Dyad tonight in a win over some jobbers, Bernal and Chen. So in the female side, here we've got Mandy Rose, Gigi Dolan, and JC Jane holding all the gold. They are Toxic Attraction. They have held all the gold for other than a brief couple week period that they lost the tag titles, but they regained them back, but for about 8-9 months. So pretty much all of NXT 2.0 history, Toxic Attraction has been running roughshod over the women's division. And there's been multiple people in alliances that try and take them down, but they continue to win every time. They've been improving in the ring, especially Mandy Rose. This was a great decision to send Mandy down to NXT after being all the way on like WrestleMania and being a Raw general manager and being part of the main roster for years. She got demoted to NXT, didn't bitch about it, just took it as another challenge. She's a very motivated person. She's in the gym every day as it is, so you can tell she's motivated. Alba Fire, the former Kaylee Ray, as you can see here, even though her real name was a little bit different than the ring name, they didn't want her to be Kaylee Ray anymore. So she is now Alba Fire. Alba's the old Scottish Gaelic word for Scotland, the name of their own country, and then Fire just is fire. So she used to come out with a baseball bat, which is kind of weird because they don't care about baseball in the UK, but I'll understand because she is in America, so there might not be a ton of. I just think she could have a better weapon, but now she comes out with the baseball bat on fire because she's Alba Fire. You see, but she is the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion. I think about 700, 800 days. I think she beat Toni Storm for the title, and had a lot of great matches there, including a great rivalry against Dewdrop when she was named Piper Nevin. And in my universe mode, I brought her. I think she's ready for the main roster. So I put an all Scottish trio of Scottish lasses with Dewdrop, Alba Fire, and Nikki Cross. I put her. I got rid of that damn superhero gimmick. So maybe that's something they could do in the future and have a Scottish trio. on Raw or SmackDown. But Alba Fire, I wouldn't be surprised if she's the one that beats Mandy Rose, but I also wouldn't be surprised if she never beats Mandy Rose. But that's probably your next opponent. Mandy Rose probably retains against Indy Hartwell, but you never know. But that could be the next opponent for Mandy Rose if Indy. Currently, Alba Fire is feuding with Lash Legend, so hopefully she can get out of that feud. A, by teaching Lash Legend some stuff and making her less green, and B, not getting injured. So that'd be the perfect thing there. Amari Miller. Speaking of Lash Legend injuries, Amari Miller stock dropped a little bit when she got really bad concussion against Lash Legend and missed about 2 or 3 months, maybe only two, but it seemed like a long time. She's recently returned, but we haven't seen her on NXT television too much. She wasn't featured a ton before that either. You could see her on the old Level Up show back when it was 205 Live still. But I expect some good things out of Amari Miller. She's from Kansas City, Missouri, and likes to represent Missouri on like her outfits and stuff. Cora Jade, definitely set up as one of the biggest prospects by WWE. I might get a lot of hate for this, but I've never been like the biggest fan of her. I mean, like Roxanne Perez is like 3 times better in my opinion, but still, you could. She showed a lot of heart in the War Games match, where she seemingly fought against all kinds of injury and pain. She didn't want to let her team down, stuff like that. And she had the whole Natty thing where Natty eventually respected her after that, and she's got the Bailey gimmick of she was a fan and even wrote in her diary that she was going to be a big star one day, which Roxanne basically has the same gimmick, and both of them look up to AJ Lee. So now they're forming a tag team unofficially known as Team 2001, and Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez probably will be your next NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cora Jade wins the NXT Women's title before the end of 2022. Alexa Lopez, she's the female member of Legado del Fantasma, and we haven't seen her in 2 weeks ever since Legado del Fantasma had to work for the Tony D'Angelo family. Maybe she got injured at the pay per view. I'm not quite sure. She wasn't in the match, so I'm not quite sure. But maybe they just didn't want her to be part of the storyline. She's got a good look to her. She's very beautiful. A lot of people are gonna like her. She's gonna stop people from changing the channel as soon as they see her. She's tall. She looks like a powerhouse. She's somewhat green in the ring, but not as green as like a Lash Legend. She can still go a little bit. Hopefully, she remain. I would definitely keep her for a while because she has star potential, especially in the looks department. She looks like a star. So hopefully they give her a little bit of time and some seasoning in NXT. I could see her maybe getting to the main roster in a couple of years. Fallon Henley, um, I think the only person in WWE that's from my neck of the woods. She's near Detroit, Michigan. Even though I don't think they'll ever say on TV that she's from Detroit, now that they gave her like a country girl gimmick. Although there are plenty of country guys around Detroit. You've all heard of Kid Rock. Now I'm on the more. I was more of an Eminem guy, and still more about the Eminem. I was wearing saggy Snoop Dogg pants in high school, as opposed to being on the Kid Rock side of things. But anyway, Fallon Henley, she's got a great look to her. She's got a good gimmick. She likes riding horses. She's also um, part of the bar that NXT sometimes people go to. She's the bartender there, and maybe like I think her family owns it. So she's had a few matches. She lost to Tiffany Stratton twice now, I think, and recently. So she's working on her way to getting up the card. She's on the smaller side, so she's not tall or anything like that. But I think she could cut. She cut a good promo last week where she was ripping into, I think, Tiffany Stratton. So good stuff overall. Gigi Dolan. A lot of people know the name Priscilla Kelly from her stunt with a feminine product. I will say, putting a feminine product from her pants to her opponent's mouth. So a lot of people knew Priscilla Kelly from that and were disgusted about that. Um, but she came in with a lot of hype. I think she's also the former girlfriend of uh, Darby Allin, and I think she was also dating the Nash Carter, the MSK guy that got fired. So um, we've definitely heard her name here and there before she ever made it to NXT. In NXT, she instantly looked like a star. She looked gorgeous. She got a great look to her. Always with bright orange dyed hair and different styles. Um, Definitely the better of the two between her and JC Jane. Gigi Dolan's now held like the NXT Women's title for like 9 months, other than a 2 week, 3 week period before they got him back. But I expect to see her on. I would love to see her on SmackDown this Friday. That's how much Toxic Attraction needs to be on the main roster. But maybe Toxic Attraction will lose all their titles at Great American Bash, and we can get Toxic Attraction on a match at SummerSlam. That's what I would like to see. Indy Hartwell, one of the longest tenured members of the women's roster, all the way back to being tag team champions with Candice LeRae as part of the Way. She had a huge storyline right at the end of NXT 1.0. I think the last episode of NXT 1.0 main event was her wedding to Dexter Loomis, who recently got fired at the beginning of March, or the beginning of May, um, alongside her tag team partner at the time, um, Persia Parada. So they've had Indy Hartwell kind of being downtrodden ever since then on TV, saying things like, "My husband and my tag team partner are gone," and she's been sad. So now Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade have been bringing her in, and she's been helping them out and bringing her back to her old spirits. I would like to see Indy Hartwell make it to the main roster eventually. I think she's got a good look. She could definitely improve in the ring some more. Decent at promos. Io Shirai is currently out on ever since Stand and Delivers match. She got an ankle injury in that match. We haven't seen her ever since, which is unfortunate. She's one of the best wrestlers in the world, let alone NXT. One of the biggest stars to ever be in Stardom. Probably the biggest and best promotion in Japan for women's wrestling. Although Tokyo Joshi Pro is also amazing, or Joshi Pro, I think it just is. But Io Shirai's done it all in NXT. She's a former NXT champion, former women's tag team champion. There's not much left for her to do in NXT other than to train and coach the experienced girls. Um, she needs to be on SmackDown. She should have been on SmackDown months ago, and maybe she would have been by now if it wasn't for the injury. The injury happened just before WrestleMania, the day before WrestleMania, or 2 days before WrestleMania, maybe. But oh no, it was the day of WrestleMania night one. I forgot. That was crazy. I can't believe NXT's biggest show had to share the same day as WWE's biggest show. Anyway, hopefully she's back soon, and hopefully she's on the main roster like tomorrow. Ivy Nile, I've definitely fallen in love with Ivy Nile. Her look is amazing. She's like very petite and small, but at the very same time, like muscular as hell and looks like she's gonna kill you, which is great. Unfortunately, she's already 30 years old, which I mean isn't that old, but I was really hoping she was only like 24, 25. I think the sky's the limit as far as if she can improve in the ring and on the microphone. Her promos aren't the best right now, but she definitely has potential. Another one out of Knoxville, Tennessee, just the same as Bianca Belair, as well as the new NWA Tag Team Champion, Women's Tag Team Champions. Um, so a lot of good women's wrestlers coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee. JC Jane, of course, the other member of the Toxic Attraction tag team with Gigi Dolan. I don't like her as much as Gigi, but she's got her spot in the group, and she makes the other two look good. And both in the ring and outside of the ring. I don't dislike JC Jane, but I definitely she has improved since getting here. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully she can be a tag team with Gigi for years to come, and we can revive the WWE Women's Tag Team division through them. Speaking of tag teams, and reviving the women's tag team division. Katana Chance, the former American Ninja Warrior star. She's tiny. She's like 5'0", 83 pounds, but really good gymnast and can do flips and stuff that on the level, almost on the level of Ricochet, which Ricochet is probably the best in the world at that kind of stuff. So she's not quite on Ricochet's level, especially on the experience side, but she has the ability to pull off flips and stuff that almost nobody else can, especially because of her size. Caden Carter is her tag team partner. They've been partners now for at least a year, probably 2 years. She's billed as being from Manila, Philippines, so maybe another Filipino wrestler to go on the main roster, as long like TJP was. So and then Batista as well. So we'll see if that happens. They definitely should be. We need Caden Carter, Katana Chance, JC Jane, and Gigi Dolan should be on the main roster right now just to revive this tag team women's division. Lash Legend, I've spoken at length tonight. Former WNBA player. I've heard that she can rebound like Dennis Rodman. For any of you NBA fans from the past, know that Dennis Rodman is a monster rebounder. So she's that type of person, and so she has an aggressive style. She's also very good at promos. Her trash talking is very good. So you could tell she used to trash talk a lot on the basketball court. I'm a big fan of Lash Legend. I'm not a fan of her injuring women, of course, but that is maybe something to be expected with someone so big and so green wrestling against other women that are so green as well. So hopefully they avoid putting Lash Legend in there with the green 19-year-old women who are only half her size and keep her in the ring with your Io Shirai's and your Kaylee Rays and your Mandy Roses and stuff like that where they're more experienced at least. She's got a lot of potential to be a star, and if she doesn't make it as a wrestler, I could see her being a manager who sticks her nose and can fight when she needs to every now and then. Like I've already pretty much said, Mandy Rose. She got demoted to NXT, but she made the best of it. They gave her a group and made her the face of the NXT 2.0 women's division. She's increased her wrestling ability by at least double, maybe three times what it used to be from when she fell on her butt at WrestleMania 36 or 37. So she's come a long way since that moment, and a lot of people know her. She could definitely be a big star on the main roster. They bring Mandy Rose back on the main roster. Most of the fans are already going to know her, and then they're going to see her with like maybe her new faction with Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, and much more confident and a better wrestler. So that could be something that instantly you put those three on SmackDown's women roster and that women's roster, it pretty much saves it because right now it's on life support. Nikita Lyons unfortunately got a knee injury and unfortunately had some right wing stuff come out recently, which a lot of people aren't a big fan of. I'm not here to say anything about politics, but that could hurt her. Um, the crowd used to cheer for her, some of the biggest cheers of the night. That could affect that when she comes back from the injury. She told us tonight it was only a partial tear of the MCL, and she should be back soon. And she's rehabbing as hard as she can. She's got a good look to her. She's got good size. She's almost as tall as Last Legend, and she's very thick and wears revealing outfits. So a lot of people are a fan of her for that. She's also got a split-legged pinning combination as her finisher that everyone loves. So we'll see if everyone continues. I'm assuming everyone will ignore the other stuff and just be infatuated with her outfit going forward. Roxanne Perez, probably the best women's wrestler on the roster, other than Io Shirai and maybe Kaylee Ray, but they have way more experience. So the sky is the limit for the former Roxy, now Roxanne Perez. I like to call her just Roxy Perez, as in like ROXXY Perez, just to be appease both the independent fans that refuse to call her Roxanne Perez, as if like never mind. Saray, I love Saray's gimmick. Everyone was up in arms. Oh, this is the most racist thing I've ever seen. I can't believe this is on television. What are these old white bastards doing? And maybe it could be offensive. I'm a middle-aged white guy. I'm not here to say what is offensive or what's not. But to me, I was like, just let it play out. And what we got like was amazing. Her whole story about she came in and she was the warrior of the sun and she really didn't have a gimmick. She was just that was her previous gimmick in Japan, and she came in with some great wrestling. Her finisher's nasty. It's a running knee to the draped on the corner on the ropes opponent, which is nasty looking. And she's a great wrestler. They took her off TV for a little while, and when we started getting vignettes about her return, she's now wearing like a prototypical, stereotypical like Japanese schoolgirl outfit, which everyone was immediately like, "Oh, they're fetishizing Japanese women and all that." What we eventually got, well, what she was saying while in that outfit is that she returned to Japan. She was down, but but she gained confidence again because her grandmother gave her this magical necklace, and she shows the necklace. It's like a sun on a chain, and that she'll be back soon. So when she comes back, we find out that schoolgirl outfit, which yeah, maybe they could have just made it like a businesswoman outfit, or I don't know, but it was their way of showing that she was in her street clothes or whatever, and then she holds on to the necklace. So you see her walking in backstage as she's coming out to the ring. Smoke comes up, and then when she comes out of the smoke on the ramp, she's now no longer in black hair with pigtails, glasses, and schoolgirl outfit. She's in a wrestling outfit, the auburn with the gray and pink highlight hair, and completely new demeanor. She was shy before, and now she's confident. So I love that. I love crazy, like cool, like how many times have we seen this same old entrances? It's really hard to create new entrances. That was something I've never seen before, and maybe they could have done it better and just put her in like a businesswoman's suit or something like that. But or just regular street clothes. But they wanted to show that she was like meek and shy. Um, but she hasn't really gotten off the ground. She's lost to Tiffany Stratton ever since then. Saray has since then shown some an alliance with Chase U. So maybe we'll see Thea Hale, the latest member of Chase U, teaming with Saray in the future. We haven't seen Saray in a couple weeks now, I think. Sophia Cromwell, I touched on earlier. She's one of the two mouthpiece slash managers for Von Wagner. And if anybody looks at her backstage, she sends Von Wagner to go beat them up. She's got a great look. She's very beautiful. And I don't know, we've never seen her in the ring yet, so I don't know how athletic or good in the ring she is, but she is good at talking, as we found out tonight. Her promo was great. She had a great cadence to it. She's a good actor. So she seems to be a good manager material going forward. Maybe she's still training to be a in-ring competitor as well. So we'll see and watch her progression as we go. Tatum Paxley is the woman I was talking about that is a fringe member of the Diamond Mine. Um, I can swear that about 6 weeks ago, Ivy now told her she can join, but then tonight we find out she's not in it, and Roddy doesn't really like her. So we'll see where that goes. She was part of the breakout tournament where they explained her character, or at least herself. She doesn't really have a character. She's just herself right now, which herself is a power lifter who's very good at squats, can squat a ton of weight, and we'll go from there. I like her look. Tiffany Stratton, uh, just out of nowhere, probably became one of my favorite women's wrestlers in the world. She's got the look, she's got the character, she's got the promos, she's got the athletic ability. She's a former Olympic level gymnast and tumbler. She's also a bodybuilder. She's the buff Barbie doll. She's the daddy's girl. So she's also got a Mean Girls. She's like straight out of the movie Clueless. Like, oh my God, can you believe that she did that? Like, why are you even looking at me like that? Like, can you understand? And I think she does it really well. It's supposed to be annoying, but I still find it very entertaining. You can put her in any situation, it's going to be hilarious. She's got one. She's like the female KO with her one-liners. She's very quick on her feet, very witty, and she has only had about 14 matches in her career, and from match 1 to 14 has improved about 1,000%. So if she continues on this path, she's going to be one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time, and she has that potential. So I see a lot of potential in Tiffany Stratton. Knock on wood, she doesn't have any big injury problems or any big drama problems in the business, and I think she could become one of the biggest stars that the world has ever seen. And I'm being completely dead serious right now. Valentina Feroz, she's been around in NXT for a while with her partner Yulisa Leon down here. They're the Pan Am connection, and we barely ever get to see them on TV. They show up on Level Up every now and then. They were also on 205 Live when it was basically Level Up before Level Up. They're on TV every now and then. We saw them tonight on the arms of. It looks like both of them are going to go out to eat with Sangha. So maybe a story there. Maybe that was just a one-time thing, but the little bit of promo time they did get, I thought was the better promo than the one backstage between Roxanne and Cora by a mile. So maybe we'll see more of that. Maybe they're good characters and they're trying to develop in the ring. I think it's Yulisa Leon. She's a power lifter from Mexico, and then Valentina Feroz. She's, I think, more of a gymnast type, and she's from Brazil. Thus the Pan Am connection name. Zoe Stark, if you remember, she was a tag team partner of Io Shirai before her injury. She also injured her knee just around the same time and type of injury as Odyssey Jones. So I assume those two are both going to be on the same trajectory, although Odyssey Jones probably weighs 3 times more than Zoe Stark. Zoe Stark, she's pretty good in the ring. She had a racist comment, or at least they made her say a racist comment about not knowing what sushi is when she was with Io Shirai. So that was kind of awkward, but I don't think it was her fault. That's just what the writers wanted her to say. Other than the actual wrestlers, there's one manager, well, maybe two, and they both manage Von Wagner. It's Mr. Stone, the former Robbie E from TNA of all people, one of the most annoying characters in TNA history and maybe wrestling history. So here's NXT UK. We can I'm not even know NXT UK as much as I should, but I'm starting to watch them more, and you can catch my review. I reviewed last week's episode, which featured both Ivy Nile in the main event and Damian Kemp heavily in that show. So if you're a fan of NXT 2.0, make sure you're on Peacock or WWE Network and watching NXT UK as well. They've got good stuff on there. As far as these are guys that they consider on the Performance Center list. I don't know why it's any different than the other list. Like, I don't consider these guys different than Guru Raj, who was on the other list. But anyway, Bryson Montana, he has only had, I think, one match on NXT Level Up, but he was the guy that went the longest in the Ivy Nile Challenge, if you remember. So he's was shown to be like a beast of a man as far as athletic ability. He's very muscular as well. I don't think he's that tall, but he's very muscular. So along the lines of Braun Breaker's body type. He's a big football star out of Houston, Texas, and I expect to see big things out of him. He should have a good athletic background, and I've only seen him have one short match, so I haven't seen enough of him to know if he's decent in the ring. But he should have the good footwork and the good basis to go off of. Damaris Griffin, another one that was in the Ivy Now Challenge segments, didn't get quite as far as Bryson Montana. Damaris Griffin, I think, has had one match on Level Up, maybe two, tag teaming with Quincy Elliott, and I haven't seen enough or know enough about him to give any big time explanation. So this is a web page that I search on at least once a week when I'm doing all my updates to the NXT characters for my universe mode. So one thing I know that if their real name is still their ring name, then I don't have to add them to the universe mode yet because they're waiting to get their ring name. So, like, for instance, I do have Bryson Montana on universe mode now that he has a new name, but I do not have Damaris Griffin yet. I try to wait for somebody to do. I'm terrible at putting the face on people, but as long as I can get someone to enter something with like a decent looking face, I can make the outfits and go from there and the entrance and all that and the move set, but I am terrible at the face part. So I'm still waiting on somebody to add Damaris Griffin to the community creations. Maybe I'll just break down here because I'm at an impasse currently. I just finished WrestleMania 39 and NXT Stand and Deliver, so I'm just about to start year 2, and I'm trying to get as many people from the Performance Center as possible because I have made some call ups like Legado del Fantasma, Toxic Attraction, like they're all up on the main roster now, among others. Like Brian Breaker's up there, as well as Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes and Cameron Grimes. So I figured a lot of those people should be up on the main roster by next year, which is what I put him on the main roster now. So I'm looking to add more people from the Performance Center. So Edwin Grande and Gabe Y still waiting for their ring names, so nothing to report on them. Hank Walker, he's the one that had his debut match, well, technically 2 debut matches at the NXT live show on Saturday. He lost in the first one was a no contest when Von Wagner came out to beat them up, and the second one he lost probably in a squash match to Von Wagner. We did get to see Hank Walker, however, on tonight's episode. He was the guy yelling at the waitress in the weird dream sequence of Apollo Crews tonight. So Hank Walker, I could definitely imagine we'll see him on television soon in a wrestling capacity. It looks like he's got a country boy gimmick, kind of on the same. He almost has the same outfit as Josh Briggs, but it looks like he'll be the heel version. And I don't know enough about him to give you anything else other than that. Javier Bernal, I've talked about him a little bit tonight. He had a match on NXT tag teaming with Dante Chin to lose to the Dyad. He's from Colombia, but he's also from Miami, Florida, so he's also fluent in English. And he has a great look to him. He was a hair model before signing and had gorgeous looking long hair, but WWE made him cut it. I have no clue why. Absolutely no clue why. But he still looks all right. He's got a good look to him. He's not very big, so he's definitely a cruiserweight. But he looks very charismatic. Maybe even if he doesn't become a wrestler, could become a manager. I'm not quite sure. I don't think I've ever even heard him in a promo yet. But I'm assuming he looks like the kind of guy that can cut a promo, and because he has that charisma. Miles Bourne is the other guy that made his debut in the match where Von Wagner came and beat him up. And I think we've also seen Miles Bourne in the Ivy Now Challenge. And I think he's also a former football player. So I expect we'll see more of him in the coming weeks, maybe even on Level Up as soon as this week. Again, with Namidi Aguayo, um, we are waiting for him to get his ring name. So, but again, I think all these guys that were waiting for their ring names, all of them were in the Ivy Nile Challenge at some point and dropped out. Quincy Elliott, I told you earlier, he's the one with the effeminate gimmick. On you can find him on NXT Level Up every week. They give him a little bit more effeminate or flamboyant, either way, and he's very all about all inclusivity and stuff like that. So hopefully they keep him a face with that all inclusivity type gimmick, and we'll see. But week after week, it makes them look like they're making a mix between Velveteen Dream and the world's largest love machine, Viscera, which Quincy Elliott, if you do not know, is like 300 and some pounds. So hopefully they don't just give him that weird grinding and humping people gimmick of Viscera, but week after week on NXT Level Up, Quincy Elliott is grinding his hips and rubbing on people like Goldust and Viscera even more. So we'll see where that goes. Ariana Grace, the daughter of Santino Marella, she was in the breakout tournament. Unfortunately, lost in the first round, I think, to Nikita Lyons. And I think that was a mistake. She should have been someone that made it at least to the second round. They kind of made her seem like out of all the people that we had never heard of before, other than, of course, well, we had heard of Roxanne Perez before this, but she seemed like the newcomer that has the biggest upside out of that class. Other than, of course, your Roxanne Perez's. She's got some MMA background to her. The daughter of Santino Marella also was a pageant beauty queen and looks amazing. Also looks like she could kick your ass. So I expect good things out of her. I have no idea if she can cut a promo or anything like that. She's had about 2 other matches on a Level Up other than her match that she lost to the Nikita Lyons. Ava Rain is, if you guys don't know, Simone Johnson, the Rock's daughter. She has not debuted, and I haven't heard anything about her having any matches yet. They're probably having her train a lot and have matches away from the screen so that she can not be completely green when she gets on television, because she's going to have a ton of pressure on her being the Rock's daughter. I do not like the name Ava Rain. Ava's fine, but Rain makes her sound like she's Roman Reigns' daughter. Ugh. Brooklyn Barlow, she debuted on a Level Up maybe 3-4 months ago, and then she went missing and recently returned a couple weeks ago on Level Up with a little bit of updated look. Between her hair and outfit, she gave me definite Alundra Blaze vibes, Medusa vibes. So if she can be anything like Medusa or Alundra Blaze going forward, that would be amazing for Brooklyn Barlow. Calix Hampton, she's the one I told you made her debut in a interview segment at the Saturday live event, I think. Maybe it was the Friday one, but her new name is Sol, S-O-L, Ruka, R-U-C-A, and she was a gymnast from the University of Oregon. Seemed like she was a pretty good athlete. She came out on the live event in like white suspenders, so That doesn't really tell us what her gimmick or anything is going to be. Just thought of something of note. Erica Yan, I mentioned her earlier. She's part of the trio of Chinese wrestlers on the roster, if you don't count Wendy Chu. And these three Chinese wrestlers have been missing for months. I think at least we've seen Eric and Yana level up within 2022, but the other two, Boa and Ru Fang, we have not. Eric Young hasn't really ever had any big matches on NXT, so I'm not quite sure if she's that good or not. Jakara Jackson, she hasn't had any matches on television on Level Up either, but we have seen her in backstage segments, including last time we were at Carmelo's barber shop. She was in there, so she's got a little bit of. She's always dyes her hair. Definitely, a lot of times it's red hair. Really good looking, and hopefully could have a good career. I have no idea if she's athletic background or good at wrestling, or but I'm. Well, she looks like a star. I'll tell you that right now. So Kiana James, we saw her. She was in the Dusty Rhodes Women's Classic as a tag team with. She was teaming with why can't I remember her name? The girl from Detroit, Fallon Henley. So Kiana James was in a tag team with Fallon Henley. They lost in the first round, I believe, and kind of stopped tag teaming after that. Maybe one other time. She still had the Kayla Inlay name, which was her real name at the time. So then we find out her new name's Kiana James, and she's a businesswoman, and she's very good at math, and she can calculate how to win. Very reminiscent of the old Terry Reynolds from the early '90s WCW. With the her last name was York, and her she was ran York Enterprises, and she had Terry Taylor with her, and she would compute in a giant like computer like how to beat your opponent. So very reminiscent of that. um, Kiana James. I would like to see her come out in just like a business suit that's kind of long, that looks revealing. Like she doesn't even wearing a skirt, but she just got a wrestling outfit underneath, if they're gonna go that route. But she comes out with like glasses on and um, somewhat business attire. But I think she should just have regular wrestling attire underneath and take the glasses and jacket off when she gets there. Sloane Jacobs, another one of the really young contingent. She's 19 years old, and she was also in the breakout tournament, losing in the first round. She's got red hair. She's got a good look to her. Um, Formerly the notorious Mimi, you could have found her on AEW Dark and stuff like that beforehand. She looks to be a good prospect out of that same class as like Roxanne Perez and this final one, Tia Hale, who are all 18, 19, 20-year olds. I should have mentioned earlier that Tiffany Stratton is only like 23 years old, just turned 23. Thea Hale, the final one on our list here, she just joined Chase University 2 weeks ago, and they're giving her kayfabe gimmick is her real life gimmick as well. She's 18 years old, just graduated high school, like 4 weeks ago. Decided to join Chase U on television, but we don't know what college she's going to in real life. But what we do know is that WWE is allowing her to both train at NXT and attend college at the same time. So I'm assuming she's going to like UCF, which is located in Orlando, or maybe a smaller Orlando community college, something along those lines. So um, she's got a great look to her. She was wrestling on the Independents. She's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and has Spartan blood or Greek blood in her, which gives her a good exotic look. And she also kind of plays out the fact that she's got Spartan blood in her with her outfits and stuff. So, and of course, the latest member of Chase U. And that's it. That'll be it. Before we go, um, we just got the latest list of, if you remember, the NIL program, the Next in Line program is basically like a WWE drafting college athletes, and basically just to let those college athletes know that if they want to come have a tryout or whatever with WWE, come on down to the Performance Center. We'd love to have you. So this is the second class, and I don't think we've seen anyone from the first class yet. So some of these people are still in college and still, um, they're still actively in college and on their college teams. So some of these are being drafted before they even finished college, which is why we haven't seen like a lot of people. And the first nil class only came out like right around the time NXT 2.0 was formed and Black and Gold was killed. So I'm gonna go through this just a little bit before we get going. May as well at this point while we're talking about everything in NXT and the Performance Center. So this is the second ever nil class, and I'm not gonna know everybody on here, but I did notice one name I knew very well because I am a big college football and college basketball fan, and I mean if nothing else is going on, I'll throw a college volleyball, women's volleyball match on in the background or whatever I'm doing. Like if I'm playing PlayStation, I like to put some kind of sports on in the background. Um, so they're allowed here. It says they're allowed to train in the performance center at any point or use the community resources to educate themselves on building their own brand. So by being drafted by the NIL program, it allows you to have special access to WWE basically. So that's interesting to know. So these are your names. Now, if you want to go on Twitter, they've got a whole video showing a picture where they're from and them playing whatever sport it is. So on some of these, I don't even know if they're female or male or what, or if they're non-binary. So I'm just gonna read the names and where they're from. You can definitely go look at the video. I didn't want to get a copyright strike by showing it. I'm sure WWE would give me a copyright strike, but go look on their Twitter and type in nil program or something like that. First, we got Darian Guborn from the gymnastics department of University of Auburn. So another definitely seems like especially with the women, they love gymnastics or track and field, and then with the men, football, of course. So Chandler Hayden, track and field out of University of Tennessee. So if you're not familiar with track and field, that can be sprinting, short sprints. It could be running long distance. It could be hurdles. It could be throwing the shot put. So you might be a bigger person who's not quite fast but really strong. So track and field is very broad at what you're doing, and usually if you're you do one thing, unless you're in the decathlon, which are the special people, the crazy athletes that do all 10. But yeah, we got a track and field. It looks like a female from the University of Tennessee. Maybe yet another female out of Knoxville, which is the hometown of or where Tennessee University is, University of Tennessee. We got Colton Schultz, a wrestler out of Arizona State. So of course, with the men, not only football players, but a lot of a lot of wrestlers as well. We got Allie Maddox, an Ole Miss cheerleader and dance team. So that's interesting right there. I definitely like to look her up. Luke Ford, a tight end out of the University of Illinois. I'm pretty sure I've heard of him. I'm in Big Ten country, which is University of Illinois is part of. I'm a Michigan State fan. Casey Hatch, a fullback out of Arizona State. So another Arizona State contingent here. Fullback is usually like really, really muscular guys, almost like a linebacker, but on offense. So I'm assuming this guy's big and muscular. We got Thunder Keck, an outside linebacker at Stanford University. Those are the guys that are big and fast as well. So you can think of all along the lines of a Trick Williams. This is the one I knew right away. Being a Michigan State fan, Malik Carr has had a great career at tight end for Michigan State, and I would love to see him on NXT. Someone that I've been following at my own college. Kashawn Moore, a linebacker at Hampton. Hampton is a historically black university in the second division, so not the top division, but they still play some good football there, and they always have the best halftime shows as well. But another a linebacker, so the defensive version of the guy I told you about was a fullback. We've got Michaela Hall. I think she's a female basketball player at the University of Central Michigan, also pretty close to me. We got Erica Link, a volleyball player out of Elon University, and the most famous volleyball player to become a wrestler at a high level would be Charlotte Flair. So you can think of your volleyball player types as maybe being like the next Charlotte Flair. For your track and field women, you would think of them like Bianca Belair was a track and field star. So Rachel Green, another track and field star. Again, we don't know if they're throwing the shot put, the discus, or sprinting, but Rachel Glenn, I meant to say. Ruben Banks, track and field star out of Arkansas. Brianna Omazik, a volleyball player out of University of Miami. I think that's the Miami in Ohio and not the one in Florida. And then to round it out, Zachary Kingston Ward, a wrestler out of Hofstra, which is in New York City. So one of these, I think it was the South Carolina woman that was a track and field star, but one of the track and field women, I did see her picture, and she is powerhouse. She looked like she was a shot put thrower, which is the one with the strength. So this is your second ever nil class. We've already had our first one announced back when NXT 2.0 started. This is more along the lines of what the initiative of what NXT wants to be going forward. They want less independent wrestlers and they want more of your amateur style wrestlers. So that's going to wrap it up. We're almost at 3 hours on an NXT review, but I did want to get the mid-season report and I wanted to get the report of the live events as well as the second nil class. So we did find out what the nil class is enabled. They are enabled to come to the Performance Center at any point or talk to people about making their brand bigger. So interesting there. I will see you guys tomorrow, or maybe I'll be back on in a little bit. I do want to get out the season premiere of NWA's Power. That's their main television show, has been released on YouTube. So I'm going to potentially watch that now, and I'll be back later on tonight for that. But if not, I will get that up eventually, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be doing a pre-show for AEW Dynamite, where I also review Dark and Dark Elevation, so I can give you the report on that, and we'll talk about the matches coming up and the unfortunate news of Jeff Hardy being arrested and being blacklisted. AEW and Time Warner do not want him on their television show. They only want his picture on like the intro. So they're throwing down the hammer here. We'll find out all that, and we'll talk about the news and Dark and Dark Elevation before. So I'll be on about an hour before Dynamite to talk about that. And at some point, I'll be on for the NWA Power review. You can check out, if you're interested, definitely go check out my NWA Always Ready pay-per-view review from this weekend. I've also got the Dominion review up from New Japan this weekend. If you're an AEW fan, you definitely want to know what happens there. And as well as I've got a 3-hour, my new weekly Wonderful Wrestling podcast from last Friday is up. You can find all the reports about Impact Wrestling, NXT UK, and SmackDown, Level Up, Rampage. All of that is on the Friday show. So you can find that from last week, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.